chamber pressure looks good.
Doubling up. Roger roll with planet.
Water tower, fly!
Flight downside speed off. Speed off.
Yikes. You bet. Okay. We don't need any more of these.
All right, let's see, chat. You know the drill. Let us know if you can hear me, John Galloway, NASASpaceflight here, and let me know if you can see Starship SN8 out there live from Boca Chica. We've got Boca Chica Gal out there, and some testing happening tonight. We've been watching from various angles what's going on, and it looked like there was finally some activity spooling up. So we were thinking we would bring up the live stream here to show it with everybody who wanted to join. We're not exactly sure what we're going to get here this evening. The list of things we may see is wide and varied, and no guarantees on exactly what SpaceX is going to do. But the tank farm's going and the Starship's frosting, so we're going to fire up the live stream. Since everybody's checking in with 5x5s, it looks like we are ready to, light this candle. Not like the candle, like hop the thing. The hop is not scheduled for tonight. No matter how many times people are asked, I can't make this thing hop for you. But since we've got that good, let's roll through the team and who we have doing some live commentary here this evening. Of course, the camera is due to Mary, Boca Chica gal. She has rolled the live stream equipment out and is in Boca Chica Village proper, watching what is happening. She's been all over Boca Chica all day long. You shouldn't be surprised about that, seeing all the different things that are going on out there. Look for the daily video coming up whenever we get all that stuff uploaded. Also on comms here, I believe we've got Thomas Berghardt. Thomas, we got you on the horn?
You do. How you doing, Das?
Hey, not too bad. Chat, y'all hear Thomas okay there? Thomas is one of our editor live stream host extraordinaires that you hear all the time. Thomas, thank you so much for hopping in. Also, we've got Jack Beyer, who's actually out at Boca Chica at South Padre Island right now, if I'm not mistaken. Jack, we got you?
Sure enough. Can you hear me?
Yeah, how you doing, dude?
No complaints. Here getting my camera set up. I'll start pushing a feed to you here in a second off the solo.
Okay, good deal. Thank you, Jack. Also, back in the studio, we've got Michael Baylor as well. Michael, how you doing?
Good. How's it going, everyone? Hopefully, we'll see a successful test tonight so that we can get to a hop as early as Friday.
I like it. Nice and non-committal there. A successful test is a very nebulous thing to say. So, anyways, y'all take it.
Lesson.
You've learned your lesson. Nice. You've learned your lesson. If y'all want to take it away, Thomas and Michael, I'm going to work with Jack here for a second, and you guys go ahead and explain what's going on.
Yeah, so we know that the hop is not happening tonight, and we'll keep reiterating that because it's going to show up in chat 1,000 times. But there's no hop happening tonight. It's going to be some sort of pre-fire testing. They will probably do fueling operations. We don't know if that'll include a static fire. It could be just a wet dress rehearsal, but it's some sort of pre-flight testing. Again, SpaceX does not officially announce what exactly is going on, so we have to kind of guess based on road closures and things like that. But you can see the tank farm activity start to spoil, so fueling operations are going to happen in some way, shape, or form. And we'll have to keep an eye out for venting and condensation on the vehicle and all that stuff to see what exactly SpaceX is trying to accomplish before the flight. But according to Aerospace Restrictions, they don't start till Friday. So that would be the next day that they can actually do the flight test. So this is pre-flight testing we're expecting tonight. Michael, any other pieces that we should know about what we're looking for tonight?
Yeah, so, all I can say is that what we understand is that this is supposed to be a wet dress rehearsal, but the residents did get an alert notice yesterday.
Right.
The same alert notice that you get for a static fire, which means at the very least they were keeping their options open in case they decided that they wanted to do a static fire as well. And we have seen plans in the past change very last minute to do a static fire instead of a wet dress rehearsal. So, well, I don't think a static fire is a likely option tonight. It is not out of the question if plans were to be changed last minute. But again, our understanding is the current plan is to just do a wet dress rehearsal. That does not mean it's going to be a totally boring night of testing necessarily. They have never I don't think at least they've put they usually for a normal, ground test or static fire test, they do not put a ton of propellant in the vehicle because they want to minimize the risk if something goes wrong. But because this is a wet dress rehearsal for a 50-kilometer test flight, it's possible they could be putting more propellant in Starship than they would normally do for testing. And we've already seen that the tank farm activity has started up before the recondenser, which is new. So if they're still planning on using methane for today's test, it could just be a liquid oxygen test. But if they are putting both methane and liquid oxygen into the Starship tonight, that is already a different sequence that we've seen today. So still some things to look out for and to watch, even though there might not be an engine firing this evening.
And of course, we will know if there is a static fire test or something like that, or like a pre-burner or something. We'll get 10 minutes warning for that because they will sound the siren to let everyone know that an event is about to take place. If we don't hear that, then we will presume that it is just a fueling test with no engine ignition or anything like that. So that's something else that we can keeping an ear out for, I suppose. And of course, Mary will let us know if she hears that. But while we are waiting for whatever is going to happen tonight to happen, we're going to keep an eye on Starship and see what kind of testing they get done today. But we will also be happy to answer questions about Starship SN8, SpaceX, about the upcoming flight test, all of that. So if you put those questions in the chat, especially if you tag us with @NASASpaceflight, we will be able to find those questions and answer them as best we can. We got a bunch of people here who can talk about that kind of stuff. But again, this is pre-flight testing for a really big milestone for Starship development. The first time the full scale with the nose cone and the aero services and 3 Raptor engines, first time that vehicle is going to lift off from the pad and hopefully take itself up to 15 kilometers altitude and then come right back and attempt a landing with a very aggressive belly flop landing maneuver that we've been waiting to see, and help SpaceX advance their development of Starship and get closer to perfecting that type of maneuver and moving towards even higher altitude flights afterwards. So this is one sort of another day of testing before we get to that big flight no earlier than Friday. I guess I will start with some super chats that have come in.
You're running it, Thomas. I'm working with
Yep,
Jack
I
right now.
got you.
You're running it.
We'll start with some super chats that came in at the beginning of the stream here. Future Martian, a regular on the stream, says that Thomas fan club. Thank you so much, appreciate it. Jim Please with a Jack Buyer fan club, so appreciate the support. Awesome. Rough Rider Show, another regular. This is going to be epic. Is the 5-mile radius thing a true rumor? I know Jack will hate me for asking. What's the 5-mile radius thing? I'm not sure I know exactly what he's referring to.
There was a rumor that there was going to be a 5-mile safety radius for the hop, but there's sort of like different safety radiuses. There's
Right, it depends.
the land hazard zone is like that's literally how close can somebody on the ground be to the test. Then there's the marine hazard areas, which is which waterways are closed off and which areas are closing off boat traffic from. And then there's the airspace closures, which is obviously what aircraft cannot fly through. The only one of those things that has been officially published so far is the airspace closures, which were published um, earlier this afternoon, and that is one of the key milestones you were waiting to see happen before to confirm the flight test date. That closure does not really have a radius. It's sort of it's
It's a
not a
pentagon.
yeah, it's a pentagon. So basically, Starship is going to target the ocean in the event that something's going wrong on descent. So there is a larger, safety area out towards the Gulf of Mexico than there is inland. So that's why you don't get a perfect radius. You get more of a pentagon. But there is it's approximately it extends up the South Padre Island, which is about 5 miles, and then it's maybe like 3 or 4 miles like directly inland. So it depends exactly where you are, but I'm not sure which waterways are going to close yet, and I'm not sure exactly, which parts of the land are going to have the sheriff go out and scout. I mean, obviously the beach is going to be totally shut down. The sheriff will drive up and down that beforehand and make sure that nobody is driving around on the beach or at the beach before the flight test. But we've not seen SpaceX or the local county or any other authorities publish those closures yet, and we do expect them to publish that at some point, given the amount of area they will be closing. But still not entirely sure on the final hazard zone yet.
So there you go. There's our answer about the radius thing. There's not really a 5-mile hard radius. There's a bunch of different closures, and we only have the airspace restrictions for now. So stay tuned, but no sort of hard 5-mile radius thing to talk about yet. Multi-Space Industries, another regular. Perfect way to end a chill Wednesday. Thomas Fan Club, thank you so much for your support. MSI. Dougal, super appreciative of all your streams, info, and everything, but we're super appreciative of your super chats, and we know you're a regular as well. Thank you so much. And CA&P Railroad, another regular, says Mary Fan Club. So there you go. Thank you so much, and a big thank you to Mary as always for the coverage. I'm loving the lights on Starhopper. I know it's kind of blinding our cameras, but shining through the venting from the tank farm, that looks really cool.
I'm gonna ask Mary, because if you've watched their previous streams, it seems, I don't know if like the camera settings are different or if they have a lot more pad lights on Starship itself right now, because for the past couple of evening static fires, you've had to crank the ISO on Mary's camera way up because pad lights were not very bright. But Starhopper is bright today, but also SN8 itself is very lit up and nice, and Mary's camera settings look absolutely perfect right now. So that is really good.
I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty sure that I've noticed in Mary's photos, and having been around the pad myself in the last couple of days, there are some new, I think they're new, Xeon lights pointed at the
Sorry,
vehicle.
Jack, I'm going to interrupt you for an update. It looks like propellant loading is underway because we can see some venting from the base of Starship SN8 right now, and I mean, I'm trying to tell if part of that venting from behind is coming from the recondenser or not, but I'm not sure I ever saw the recondenser that is for the methane, obviously, turn on. So I'm wondering if this could be a, potentially only a liquid oxygen test tonight. Hard to say, though.
Or could they, because liquid oxygen's on the bottom, right? Before I say something stupid.
Yeah, liquid oxygen's on the bottom.
Okay, so they could be loading liquid oxygen first and then methane. I don't know if that's a weird fueling timeline thing for the hop, maybe.
Again, this is the first time we have potentially seen the flight fueling or propellant loading sequence. So there's a recondenser. I just saw the puff. So good point, Thomas. And I'm reshuffling our timeline right now to reflect that. But we did just see a puff from the recondenser, I believe. I'm not seeing it again though, so I want to make sure that was not. That could have been the venting from under SN8 actually being blown by the wind. Now that I'm looking down more, I might have called that too soon. Never mind.
All good. So now we have propellant loading underway, and both methane and liquid oxygen operations underway. So it's not some weird one-off test.
No, I don't think the recondenser's on. Actually.
Oh wait, you say you don't think it's on now?
Yeah, I looked too soon. I was fixing the timeline. I looked down. I thought I saw it, but no, it's just a venting from under SN8. It's blowing to the left.
All right, so we'll stand by and maybe we'll keep an eye on the recondenser if we can. I know Hopper's blinding us currently, but we'll try our best. We got a bunch more super chats just coming in, and we got a bunch of questions, so I'm going to try and get through those while we wait to see what's going on. Andre with just no message, just the $50 super chat. Thank you so much for your support. Another regular around here. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Bill with the $10 take my beer money. Thank you so much for your support. Andrew with a question. Any guess on RCS thrust power rate? So what's the deal with the RCS thrusters on Starship? Are they just cold gas thrusters the same as Falcon? Do we know?
Yes, but they are working on a upgraded system with methane, sort of using some of that Raptor technology for a thruster. It's not going to be like a full Raptor, obviously, but they are working towards a methane powered thruster system, but that's going to be a future upgrade that has not yet been implemented. So right now they are cold gas nitrogen thrusters like you have on Falcon 9.
So similar to Falcon 9 there. Question here, or a super chat here from I'm not sure how to say. Did you something like that? In appreciation of all NSF work, Boca Chica Gal for the imagery, and all you cool kids and kids that joined the stream. Thanks, Mary, Texas Tank Watchers. Thank you so much. We're glad you appreciate our coverage, and thanks for tuning in. Cole says, can't wait to see this fly. Thank you, Mary and NASASpaceflight. Well, thank you for tuning in, and thanks for the super chat. We appreciate it. Ruby, hi guys, love your live streams. Well, thank you, Ruby, and thanks for tuning in. We appreciate it. Let's see, Charlie with the question, are the wing-alons, are we calling them wing-alons now? Wing-alons in a different position. I'm assuming you're referring to the control services, which I think have like 10 different names at this point. We were just talking about that, and I think that they've been moving them around the last couple days. They have been doing some things with them, right, Michael?
Yeah, the bottom two flaps have been extended slightly, but they're still tied down.
Right.
So I don't know if we're going to see any flap testing tonight, but they definitely did. If you have watched our previous streams, they are more unfurled than they were before. And I am also seeing some small amounts of venting right now from the aft section of Starship SN8. Probably some small amounts of liquid oxygen, maybe. You can see from that kind of in a dead center.
Oh,
maybe
yeah, I
about
see it.
four
Yep.
rings up from the bottom.
There's just a little bit of venting as they begin prop loading, and again, we haven't seen that recondenser for sure yet. So right now we've only seen liquid oxygen. Of course, if we keep an eye on that top tank, it's possible that we're getting blinded by Hopper and all the venting over there, and we'll just see venting from the methane tank, and then we'll know that both tanks are being loaded. But we'll keep an eye on that. But yeah, definitely some venting from the liquid oxygen tank a little bit.
If we see venting from the methane tank there, that's probably nitrogen. So.
Oh, that's true.
I mean, I would assume they are pressurizing it, but it might not be with methane. So
Okay.
if we don't see the recondenser, I don't think there's methane in it right now, which could be a definitive sign that there's not going to be a static fire if we don't see the recondenser come on.
This is true. We got another super chat, $25 from Aaron. Thank you so much for your support. We really do appreciate it. John Miles with the $5, always fun and informative. Well, thank you. We appreciate that. We try our best. Jocelyn with a question, can NASA Spaceflight confirm that Mark 1 was torn from the limb today? I know we saw some work being done on Mark 1, the very first sort of full-scale Starship prototype that they worked on. It was more of a manufacturing pathfinder than anything else. But I don't know if we actually saw we know they were working on it. Did we see something more definitive than that, Michael? Or Jack or anyone?
I think Mary was standing by waiting to see what's going to happen. They had a
Right.
crane up, and it looked like they might be disassembling it. But my understanding was that it had not happened as of this testing starting. I don't know. I don't think Mary has eyes on it right now because she's out filming this test. But I'm sure after this test is done, Mary will be going right back to see what's going on for Mark 1. So, but yes, it did look like they had a crane up by Mark 1. We're not sure if they were going to be making some modifications to it to preserve it as a monument of some sort, or if it's going to be disassembled. So, wait and see on that one.
So we cannot confirm that yet, but Mary will be on the case shortly after whatever happens here. I'm sure Mary will be able to find out for us. Question here, do you think they are going to test switching from the main tank to the header tank? I do not think they've actually tested that yet. Have they done switching for the two propellant tanks yet, Michael?
So I think
we know they did a header tank test of some kind, right?
My understanding is that the static fire that I don't know for sure actually, but I did hear I did see some indications that the static fire that had the Martite strike the Raptor and that had like the minor anomaly that caused the Raptor to be replaced. That static fire may actually have been the planned handoff static fire test they were trying to accomplish. Then they found out that the Raptor was not at fault. It got struck by Martite, so it wasn't like a problem with the Raptor. It was a problem with the pad. So I'm not. It could be very well be possible that they got the data that they needed from that test to not have to do it again. But again, I don't know for sure if that was the handoff static fire. I don't have enough information to be certain on that, but we did hear some indications that that might have been the objective of that test.
Excellent. And Mark with oh wait, hold on. Is this Mark? Is this NSF Mark? Is this Mark Webmaster Mark? It is. NASA Spaceflight Webmaster showing up in chat. How you doing, Mark? This says enjoying the coverage, guys. Well, we appreciate you tuning in, Mark, and thanks. Mark is the mastermind behind all of the forums and the news site, and helps us out with all that stuff. So we really do appreciate it. Question here from Odin: is this just simple pressure testing? Any static fires left to complete before the hop? And finally, when is the hop planned? Love the streams. All right, so first question: is this just simple pressure testing? We don't know exactly what's going on. We know they are loading at least liquid oxygen right now. And it's possible that this is some sort of wet dress rehearsal. I think that's our best guess right now. As far as any static fires left, we know that at some point SpaceX was considering another static fire before the hop test, because that's what Elon tweeted. But then those closures on those days got canceled. So if personally, I think the understanding I'm getting is that if they had extra time before the flight test to do a static fire, they would, just another way to get even more data. But it wasn't required before the next flight or before the first flight. So I don't think there are any static fires left that they need to complete before the hop, which is why we don't know if we'll get one tonight. They did put out a alert notice saying that it is possible that they'll do one during tonight's window. And if we get that 10-minute siren, that'll be a sign that they are in fact going to light the Raptor engines. But right now we're kind of expecting just a wet dress rehearsal. And then finally, when is the hop planned? The hop is planned for no earlier than Friday, and that is according to the airspace restrictions that are required for that flight. There are road closures, obviously right now, and then Thursday and Friday, but the airspace restrictions are only Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So the only day where they have both of those in place right now is Friday. Obviously, plans can change, but that's where we stand currently.
Yeah. And just quickly, regarding that static fire that was planned for Monday that got canceled due to weather or tactical readiness, I'm not exactly sure which one. It was at least weather. I'm not sure if they would have been ready to static fire on that day anyway. But regardless, they can obviously just do more and more static fires. You know, the more static fires you do, the less risk you have, because the more tests you do, the less risk you have for the flight. But at some point, you just have to draw a line and do the hop or the test flight, whatever you want to call it. So it's just a matter of where Elon, because he's the boss, wants to draw the line in the sand in terms of how much risk he's willing to accept. And it seems like right now, with SN9 pretty much complete and ready to roll to the pad, and Pad A needing repairs because they've had so much Martite getting chewed up, it does kind of make sense for them to just get SN8 off the pad. Obviously, if that ends up resulting in SN8 coming right back down on the pad, that would be a longer delay. But as long as they get SN8 up and over the ocean, even if SN8 has an anomaly, I don't think they'll be too worried about it as long as it does not damage the pad, because they've got SN9 all ready to go. They'll still get a bunch of good data, so I don't think they're worried about doing a lot of additional testing if there's not a huge open risk that they're worried about.
All right, and we got a super chat here from a familiar face, Marcus House, showing up in chat. Says thanks as always for the amazing coverage, Mary and NSF. We love you all. Shout out to you, Marcus. We appreciate it. Thanks for tuning in. I believe I just saw the SpaceX drone flying across our stream. Did you see that? It just flew off to the left side.
It did.
So SpaceX drone is in the air. Another milestone to check off. I know it's not really a timeline milestone, but something else that we picked up on. Andre with yet another super chat. Andre, thank you so much for your support. We really do appreciate it. Regular around here. And then Gerard with the super chat. Thank you again so much. I think I'm caught up, which will surely prompt even more super chats to fill in the queue. But for now, thank you so much, everyone, for your support. And that means I can get to some of these questions that I queued up. So let's start with this one. This was a good one. Okay. So question about the airspace restrictions. So Acid.com says the TFR has been issued, the temporary flight restriction, but still no sign from the FAA. Will they have enough time to get permission? So I think this is referring to the FAA launch license, which SpaceX needs to conduct flights like this. You can see the drone back on frame again, by the way. This flight is covered under a launch license that SpaceX has had since May, I believe. They already have a launch license for sort of low altitude, in fact, higher than 15 kilometers even. They are covered for, I don't know if they're space flights, I don't know if they reach suborbital space, but sort of atmospheric flights, including the 15-kilometer flight, that is already covered under a launch license that SpaceX has been granted. There will be future launch licenses for Starship for super heavy launches and for much higher altitude launches and orbital flights. All of that is still in the works and obviously depends on completing development tests like the one we're watching tonight and the flight coming up. But the launch license that will cover the flight, the 15-kilometer flight itself, has already been granted and they already have permission for that. And that is sort of backed up by the fact that the temporary flight restriction, the airspace restriction, has been issued. So SpaceX is all covered on the FAA side of things for this particular flight now. I guess we're waiting on merit. I guess so we have road closures and we have airspace restrictions. So we're waiting on maritime water restrictions and then like where the hard checkpoints and stuff will be. That's kind of what we're waiting on, but that's sort of logistical things that they're waiting on. They have the permissions they need, if that makes sense. Let's see what else. What other questions we got? Here's a question: how many people does NASASpaceflight have in Boca for the 15-kilometer flight? So right now we've got Mary down there, as always. She lives there, obviously. Boca Chica Mary is down there. We know Jack is down there, and he's currently working with Das on getting another camera angle getting set up. So we'll hear from them in a little bit, hopefully. And then we've got Tyler Gray, NSF reporter, who lives down in Texas. So he drove to Boca. He is there. I think that's it. I hope I'm not missing anyone. I think it's just those three that are in Boca Chica. We didn't want anyone who couldn't drive there to go there, so they are the only NSF members down there. The rest of us are supporting here from home. Me, Michael, and Das are all at home supporting from the studios here, and we'll be doing the same for the flight itself. But that is the NSF team in Boca Chica currently. Here we have a super chat question. What is the most important thing to think about aerodynamically when launching the rocket? Specific to Starship or generically? Because I could talk about rocket aerodynamics all day. That's my thing. But for Starship, I mean, this flight is going to be different because it's going fast enough and high enough where the aerodynamics really matter. On previous flights, you had the SN5 and SN6, which were, grain silo looking things. They weren't aerodynamic because they didn't have to be. They didn't go very fast and they didn't go very high. So aerodynamics wasn't that important. It was mostly about testing the Raptor engine, verifying that the way they're building their fuel tanks is sound and the landing legs are working okay. I know SpaceX is still improving their landing leg design a bit, and the RCS thrusters and things like that. And working on fueling timelines as well. That's another thing they accomplished with the previous vehicles. But this flight is going to go high and fast enough that they need aerodynamic control. So they have the nose cone, which will give them the sort of streamlining ability they need to go faster and not lose control during that portion of the flight. And then they have the control surfaces, the big fins at the bottom and the smaller canard fins at the top. That'll actually help them steer the vehicle on the way down by pivoting those fins and directing the center of pressure around that way, if you know those terms. And that'll help them steer it on the way down and then conduct that flip maneuver at the bottom to use the Raptor engines to flip and land on the landing pad. So that's the big difference with this new test vehicle and how they're incorporating some more aerodynamic properties into this test flight.
And we do see the liquid oxygen tank venting now.
My production preview has frozen, so I cannot see that at the moment, but I will take your word for it and say that liquid oxygen tank is venting.
They're good. Just again. We're seeing that dual vent location vent from the liquid oxygen tank right now, which usually becomes a 3-vent location vent. We think it's probably 1 vent per Raptor.
That makes sense. I'll be my previews back. Let's see. More. We had Luna Clark with a new membership. Thank you so much. We appreciate you joining up. Hope you enjoy your perks. Sean with the super chat. Do you think the issue of space debris will be fixed in the future as space gets cheaper? Simply putting armor on satellites and vehicles. So for solving it by putting more shielding on vehicles. I'm not sure. Maybe that could be a thing. If you have vehicles like Starship able to lift heavier vehicles, there can certainly be more in the mass budget to put micrometeorite debris shielding and things like that. That only helps on, of course, small pieces of space debris, but I'm sure that's an interesting factor. I haven't thought about it that way. In the past, we have thought about using Starship as a way to clean up space debris. Since it goes to orbit, it can collect some old satellites or junk or anything, and then return to Earth and land. So we've talked about that from the Starship point of view, but that's another interesting point. That's interesting.
My personal opinion is that space debris is going to get a lot worse as things get cheaper because more and more companies are going to be launching satellites.
That's true. So I hope there's a balance. I hope that cheap access to space, yeah, increases the amount of things in space, and thus, as things fail, or if you launch things like CubeSats that don't necessarily have propulsion on them, those can all become space debris. But hopefully that means there's a new wave of vehicles that are aimed to counteract that and clean up defunct satellites and things like that. So I hope it's both, because then that'll keep the risk low and make sure that we can continue to utilize space for all the amazing things that spaceflight can do. That's another good point.
We're still getting a lot of questions in chat about when the hop is. So the hop is no earlier than Friday. So
Yes.
if you want to see the hop, make sure you tune in on Friday. We will be live for the hop, of course, when that happens. And then we're also getting questions about whether or not this is a static fire. And the answer is we don't think so right now because we do not see the methane recondenser on. So we think this is most likely a wet dress rehearsal of the liquid oxygen ground support systems and loading liquid oxygen into the Starship ahead of that flight test on Friday.
Another new membership, Annie, joining the NSF YouTube membership. Thank you so much. A super chat from Jage Boulder. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. And Matt Olson with the new membership. Thank you so much. We really do appreciate it. Let's go into some more questions. We have some questions here about a relight test. We know that during the Starship SN8 15-kilometer flight, they will, of course, light their 3 Raptors on the ground to start the initial ascent. It'll power itself up for some amount of time, shut down the engines, and coast up to 15 kilometers altitude, at which point it will begin to fall back down, and then the Raptors will have to relight on the way down. And we have not seen them kind of simulate that on the test stand. But I think we have some reasoning as to why they might not be able to do that. Obviously, we have heard that the test stand around where SN8 is, the pad, has taken a beating over so many different tests. And every time you light those Raptor engines, you're damaging the pad around it. And there's some work that has to be done in between tests. So I'm not sure if the pad can actually stand a relight test without doing some work in between the 2 engine firings. But again, they've conducted several static fire tests, which means they have started up these Raptors many times. So I think they have the data they need to be confident in a Raptor relay. And I don't think that's really the high risk item, is whether the engines will relight properly. I don't think that's the issue. I think the bigger point of concern during this flight is the aerodynamic control on the way down, because that's something that you really can't test. You can simulate it a lot using flight simulators and things like that, but you can't really simulate to perfection. So the test flight is where you'll get the really important data. So I'm not sure a relight test is something that can't rule it out, but I'm not sure that's something we're expecting. Here's a question that I'll throw out to the whole team, and we'll bring it back. I know Jack and I just combined their names. Jack and Das, well, I'll get them thoughts on this as well once they're done getting Jack's feed set up. But and we've got a couple questions on this. The chances of SpaceX landing SN8, and I'll add in one piece, because SN8 is going to land one way or another. It's whether it's in one piece after the fact. I know the number kind of 1 in 3 has been thrown around. I think that's kind of where I'm at right now. Michael, what do you think?
Well, Elon said 33%. So
Right.
since Elon is the one that has all the data, I'm going to go with Elon.
I think 1 in 3 is a good chance. I mean, I've been overly pessimistic on all the previous Starship tests, so I'm trying to figure out if I'm just being pessimistic again or whether this really is a much riskier test. I think it is more risky than the previous ones, but we'll see. I like 1 in 3. I think that's the 1 in 3 chance of success is a good estimate. Thank you, Trevor, for the new membership. We really do appreciate it. And Captain Wisdom with the super chat. Thank you so much. Again, all those super chats and memberships allows us to reinvest in new equipment. We've got plenty of new equipment ready there in Boca Chica to document the test flight that's coming up. And so we really do appreciate all that support. And we can't wait to show you our greatly improved coverage, especially for this upcoming flight test. Here's a question from Stuart, a super chat question. Thank you so much. Will the Earth-to-Earth launches from Starship be used for cargo for a few years before actual passengers try. And I think that's probably a good bet. I know they'll definitely test the flight trajectory without people on board, but I could definitely see them using those kind of test flights or early flights as an opportunity to transport cargo, which obviously much lower stakes than flying passengers. I could definitely see that being a thing. SpaceX hasn't really gone into detail on those plans. They're still working on developing the vehicle itself. But I think there's a very fair chance that that does happen, yeah. Here is a question that I'm not sure I know the answer to, so I'm going to pass it on to Michael. Plush Vader with the super chat, thank you, says, how much higher is the soon-to-be new launch stand? I'm assuming you're talking about the orbital launch stand compared to the old test stands, or is there another new test stand that I missed somewhere?
Yeah, I assume they're talking about the orbital test stand or the orbital launch stand. I'm not sure the exact height of that, but it's definitely a bit higher and a lot more robust. They have the 6 very large pillars that have been filled with concrete, so that is definitely meant to support a lot more Raptors than the current launch stand. However, Elon said they are not going, or they're not currently planning at least, to construct a flame diverter, and he said that might be a mistake. So we'll see what happens with that. But as of now, that orbital launch stand should be able to support at least a couple more Raptors than the current launch stand.
Another question, super chat from Brian. Thank you so much for your support. We really do appreciate it. I have to come up with like new phrases to say when people super chat because I feel like I'm saying the same thing over and over again. But thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thomas, I have the same exact problem because you want to express your sheer, your extreme gratitude, but sometimes it can feel like you're saying the same thing over and over again. But I mean, at one point on one of our streams, I think I started saying bleep bloop. Like we need to make up a new word for it or something. Like it's really,
Yeah.
it means a lot that everybody supports what we do. I mean, it means a lot. It's kind of a nebulous phrase, but it means we can keep doing it. So thank you so much to everybody that supports what we do.
I'm still here too, just busy.
Busy.
I'm busy, y'all. I'm busy. Sorry.
Ever busy. Well, we see venting from the liquid oxygen, the top of the liquid oxygen, or not the top of the liquid oxygen tank, but higher up the liquid oxygen. That's usually what we see when they're depressurizing. So perhaps they're moving into detanking operations already, which would be interesting because one of the things we are looking to see in this test is would we see frost on the outside of Starship. If we see frost on the outside of Starship, that indicates that propellant levels have gone up higher than the lower bulkheads at the bottom. So that would indicate a lot more propellant than usual. But we're now seeing dual depressurization vents from both tanks. So this to me looks like they're wrapping up this test already. This looks like the normal detanking sequence we see. They depressurize the tanks, the venting at the bottom calms down a bit. We're not sure if this is the only test they plan tonight, but it does look like this may be wrapping up, which I mean, we didn't see any obvious signs of problems. Again, we don't have all the data. This could have been an abort, we don't know for sure, but from what we can tell, it seems like everything was going smoothly so far.
We do have a bit of news Mary just put in our back channel that says, and I quote, more Starship food has arrived at the checkpoint. I'm assuming that means more fuel trucks.
Yep.
So maybe that is relevant. But we are definitely seeing the venting that kind of goes with detanking operations right now. We'll keep an eye on that. First of all, a super chat from Nick says, thank you so much. We appreciate it. And David, will this be the last test before they attempt the flight? That is a great question that I don't think we really know the answer to. I know they have road closures in place between now and Friday, so they definitely could do more testing between now and then. It's just a matter of what they need to accomplish before that and what sort of extra data they want before SN8 flies. We'll have to wait and see. It could be the last test. It might not be. We really don't know.
Yep. Yeah, that liquid oxygen venting has pretty much completely subsided, other than that small trickle in the center, so presumably they are draining all of it out right now. We're continuing to see the depressurizing vents. Those are just the excess gas that's boiled off in the top of the tanks being vented out. We could sometimes they often do RCS tests too at the end of the testing sequence, so it could be possible that during the detanking or after the detanking we could see some of the RCS thrusters fire, so keep an eye out for those. Those will just be some small puffs of gas shooting out from either the Starship main tank section or possibly up near the top on the nose cone.
Question here from Chris, a super chat question. Do the cold gas thrusters, the nitrogen thrusters, have enough power for reorientation during landing? Do you think they'll have to move to Draco thrusters in the future? I don't I mean, the cold gas thrusters aren't really the main factor in doing that final reorientation. The main things they use are the aerodynamic surfaces and then the Raptor engines themselves, which can gimbal a bit. So they start the turn by pivoting the aerodynamic surfaces in the right way to begin putting the engine section down towards the ground, and then they finish the burn by using the actual thrust from the Raptor engines. The cold gas thrusters are a small part of that, but those are more important for actual maneuvering on orbit, where obviously the aero surfaces don't do anything. So I don't know. I don't think they'll have to use Draco thrusters anytime soon. They are upgrading to Raptor-derived hot gas thrusters in the future, I believe. I know we touched on that a little earlier, but no, I wouldn't expect any Draco thrusters.
Elon did tweet that most of the flip is going to come from the Raptor gimbling, so
right,
which was counterintuitive to me. I would have thought it would have been more the control surfaces, the flaps doing their thing, but Elon tweet said mostly from Raptor gimbling, so interesting. Surely the control surfaces will be doing something though.
Yep.
And here's a $50 super chat. Thank you so much, Ben Street. We really do appreciate it. A couple bucks for y'all, and thanks for all the great work lately. And a big thanks to Mary, of course. Thank you so much, and we can't be more thankful for Mary as well. She's the one out there documenting this every day and bringing you these live streams. We're just here in the studio to talk about it. So thank you so much.
Never in a million years did I think we would have a live view from 1.5 miles from a SpaceX launch site that is not an official camera, that is one of our cameras.
Right.
Never thought that would actually happen, and of course, it's all because somebody in Boca Chica Village was willing to fight and wrestle and make all the live stream equipment work, because I can tell you from my experience or my short time learning how all this stuff works that it is not as easy as it looks. It's not just like you press the button and everything powers up. No, you press the button, everything powers up, 3 of the modems don't work, and then you have to fight 3 of the modems. So definitely a big thanks to Mary for putting up with all the live stream equipment so we can enjoy this view.
Absolutely.
Live streams? Wait, somebody say something about live stream equipment? Is it broken? What, do I have to fix something else?
Someone mentioned Fleet Cam, and we'll get Das's full attention.
What, Fleet Cam? You want me to switch to Fleet Cam? I'm so busy right now, so I apologize.
Good.
We're doing a bit of a wet dress rehearsal ourselves, I think. Is that fair enough?
It's like a photon dress rehearsal or something like that. There's something like that, yeah.
Yeah, And we
It
have
would be wiggly. It would be a wiggly dress
Wiggly.
rehearsal because electrons and photons wiggle, right? So it would keep the acronym. So it's a wiggle dress rehearsal. Oh God, I hate it now. I hate it already.
Yeah. Why'd you say that? Why'd you have to do that?
Yeah, I don't think we're going to reveal everything tonight, but we do have exciting plans for the Starship Hop live stream. So tune in then and find out.
And if you're at South Padre Island, turn off your cell phone, please.
Yes. Think of the
this-
bandwidth.
We need all the bandwidth we can get because we plan to use all of it.
We have so many modems down there right now. There's a spreadsheet involved now, so.
AT&T and Verizon love us. And your
Yes.
super chats. They love us and your super chats.
Yeah, right?
Yes. Here is a question from Jonah. Would it make sense for SpaceX to put down a solid steel plate on top of the pad instead of Martite to protect against damage? If I know they're not putting a flame director, hypothetically, if they were, most flame directors are metal of some kind, right? They're not just like concrete built into the pad.
I mean, I don't know. That's a good question. I think steel might. I'm just thinking. I don't think steel would. I think steel is probably not going to do too well because the steel cannot survive or cannot handle re-entry without additional heat tiles. I don't know if it would be able to survive a Raptor without melting.
Yeah, I know Elon mentioned doing some cooling lines in the concrete in the pad to help mitigate some things. So I would imagine that is a more preferable method of protecting the pad.
I mean, they do usually have metal flame diverters, like at Pad 39A. So
yeah, but I think the main benefit of that is the geometry of the deflector, right?
Yeah,
it's not the material.
I don't think you can just have a steel plate. I think you have to
Right.
have like water cooling in the steel to make it work.
Here is a super chat question from Brian. If the propellant is required to remain at a specific temperature, how will that impact the recognition from the header? I'm going to assume that it's supposed to say reignition. But we know propellant temperatures are something that's important for Starship vehicles. All the propellant is cooled to certain temperatures. So I'm not sure. I mean, they'll be monitoring those temperatures before liftoff, and if the temperatures are out of the range where they need to be, they won't lift off. They'll take time to correct that. I would imagine that they have taken into account the sort of temperature changes expected during flight, so that they know if the temperatures are at a certain point during liftoff, we know they'll be no worse than this by the time they're ready to relight the engines. So I'd imagine that's something they'll take into account when looking at their pre-flight checks, and so it's not something I would really be worried about. Here's a super chat saying, Elon, if you happen to be watching, please send me a Starlink beta invite. I would like to double that and say, please send NASASpaceflight a Starlink beta invite, because we would happily trust out Starlink down in Boca Chica as well.
We would also need some super chats for massive solar arrays. Those Starlinks suck so much power right now. They will not run very long on battery. We'll figure it out. But they are power hungry, according to some new information that came out in the last couple days.
Yeah, they are. They did a SpaceX Starlink Reddit Ask Me Anything, and some engineers were answering questions on Reddit. And it does sound like that power issue is one of the top things they're working on. So hopefully in the future they will have some Starlink models that are a little bit less power intensive. But we are seeing some condensation now on the liquid oxygen tank. That's normally what we see when they detank. Just if you think about like when you have a can of compressed gas and you let some out, the tank gets cold. That's that same chilling effect we're seeing right now. And again, we do not know if this test was successful or not. We were not expecting a static fire, so without any indication of what the T0 of the test was. We don't know if they made it all the way or if they aborted early. So we might just have to wait for Elon to say something on Twitter, hopefully, to find out if they're good to go for the hop on Friday.
Oh gosh, here's another super chat that says, just don't mention bluebirds.
Nice. Of course it has.
Trying to dive into some more questions. We got a whole queue coming up, but I want to keep addressing the super chats. Dust, do you have a second to take a question, or are you too busy?
I'm pretty busy, but what's up?
We just have a question. We're planning to sort of film and frame the 15-kilometer test flight. You want to give any insight to that from your end?
Nope.
Find out on Friday.
That's a good answer. You'll find out on Friday or whenever the flight actually happens.
Turn on notifications and prepare to be hopefully surprised if everything works. If everything breaks, then prepare not to be surprised.
Prepare to see a copy of the SpaceX stream.
Ooh,
we've got some very exciting stuff planned, and you should definitely tune in.
Sorry, Thomas. The recondenser is puffing. So
oh yeah, I see it.
Maybe they're not done yet.
Those are some interesting puffs. I don't think we've seen really anything like that before.
No, we've never seen puffs like that before. At least that I can remember, and I think I've watched almost all these tests.
Yeah, same. Speaking of stuff breaking, though.
Well, sorry, Jack. It's going crazy now. Look at that. Interesting.
So not test over.
Perhaps not. I mean, like we said, they could do multiple cycles. There is some flashing. I wonder if that's like a light getting illuminated by that venting. It looks like it.
Sorry, y'all. That's me. There we go. That's better.
So we will add recondenser to the. I was just going to say, we're adding recondenser now to almost the bottom of the list, the complete opposite of its normal location.
The light rays coming from behind the condensation cloud, it looks so cool.
We have a question here about SN9. Of course, this is SN8 currently on the pad. SN9 next in line, fully assembled in the high bay and ready to roll out as soon as SN8 clears the pad. A question is about, does SN9 still already have Raptor engines installed, and will it have to do 4 static fires like SN8 did? Correct me if I'm wrong, SN9 does not have Raptor engines installed, correct?
I mean,
we don't.
As far as we know,
we don't think it does, but
yeah.
It's hard to say.
We don't think so, but that's not definitive.
Yeah, I do wonder though at what point they start installing the Raptors at the launch site, or at the build site, excuse me, just so that they can have a lot of faster turnaround time in terms of each launch campaign, because there's so many Starships being built. You know, they're up to SN15 at least in terms of Starships under construction right now. So at some point they need to get them to the pad and launch them in a quicker time frame so that they can get through all these Starship test vehicles. And the Raptor installation process takes several days per Starship currently.
Surely they're going to have to start installing the Raptors at the build site. And it's interesting because SN5 and SN6 both had their Raptors removed at the build site, which kind of surprised me. And I do wonder at what point they'll start installing Raptors at the build site. The other day in one of Mary's videos, oh God, I'm mixing Mary's videos with reality now. The other day when I was at the build site, I saw them moving the Raptor installation stand, the old Raptor installation stand, back to the build site from the launch site. Because now and lately it seems like they've been using a sort of a scissor lift truck to install Raptor, whereas before they kind of like chained it up and like hauled it up into the aft section and had sort of a platform that they would move next to the launch stand. And now that platform is back at the build site. I don't know if that's maybe just, clearing house down at the launch site and clearing off the landing pad area and all of that, or if maybe they're going to use that for something at the build site, or maybe they have a different way of installing Raptors at the build site that we just haven't seen yet. But surely that's going to have to start happening eventually.
I mean, if you think about it, they don't roll out Falcon 9 rockets and then install the engines at the pad. It's pretty more typical to install engines beforehand, roll out the completed rockets. So yeah, they'll definitely move that way.
Yeah, and I think maybe part of it with past iterations is the engines were delivered as soon as they were ready, and no sooner, no later.
Right.
And so the vehicle was built and on the pad and ready to accept an engine, whereas now we're getting into the territory where 9 is done and probably ready for engines, and 10 is almost done, and 11 is close behind, and 12 is close behind that, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we've seen a bunch of Raptors delivered over time that we haven't necessarily seen put on a vehicle. I think 1 or 2 at least. So I don't know if that qualifies as a bunch, I guess. But still, they have Raptors on site, surely, that aren't on SN8. And maybe they're on SN9 already, or they're going to get put on it soon.
So again, I'll just say quickly, our timeline is obviously based on what we're observing. We don't have official information from SpaceX saying expect this and this and this. So it is slightly speculative, so just keep that in mind. But it does look like, to me, I'm wondering if they actually detanked or if they are now, this is just part of the process of putting in a lot more propellant than we've seen before.
Drone's up, by the way.
Yeah. So I mean, we're still seeing venting, a lot of venting from the bottom of the vehicle. So I don't know if we should call this as detanking it, honestly.
I imagine Adrian in our chat, who's been keeping the spreadsheets of all of these tests and timings, just like with head in hands, like, why? This doesn't make any sense.
I'm sure he's taking notes right now, though, so that he knows what to expect for Friday.
This is definitely a different timeline, but that's not totally unexpected, given what they're preparing for. Couple more super chats. XCLNav says thanks a lot for your efforts. We appreciate it. Vincio with a super chat. Thank you so much. And here's one for Jack. Arthur says, Jack, the white beams of light and unexpected smoke are clearly signs of the Ark of the Covenant being opened in preparation for its trip to Mars. So there you go.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll be sure to get like electrified or whatever, like Indiana Jones style.
Here is a question, and I don't know if we have an official answer on this, but we can certainly speculate. Will the flaps be extended on ascent, or will they be tucked in? Thoughts, guesses?
I mean, we've had this question before. I think our standard response has been they would be fully extended so that it's a symmetrical surface, sort of, when Starship's launching, but who knows? Hard to say.
Some guy in chat named NASASpaceflight says that I should ask Jack about the Smiling Dolphin.
The Smiling Dolphin.
Okay, so I was driving around the other day and saw some dolphins riding the wake, the bow wake of a couple shrimp boats. And I don't know, I took some photos because I had my camera with me. Why not? And I was looking at the photos later, and the camera that I've rented for this is 45 megapixels, and so it's a good camera with a good amount of resolution. So I'm zoomed way in on one of the photos that I took on the dolphin's face, and it was smiling. It was a smiling dolphin. It was a happy little guy. So I don't know. I had a moment. Okay, I had a moment where I was extremely happy that the dolphin was so happy. So I don't know. I posted it in our member Discord. we made it into several different. I think you made it into several different emoji. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
For humoring my insanity. But come on, it's a smiling dolphin. How can you not love it? And then every now and then somebody in Discord will be like, "What's with the smiling dolphin?" and we have to explain. So yeah, I don't think we're gonna get a feed from my camera tonight. A little bit of a modem issue here, but that should be sorted.
I was surprised.
That's why we test.
I was surprised
That's
that
why
anybody
we
even
test.
said a thing about your feed tonight, Jack. I thought we were just testing that, and not telling anybody.
Well,
good times.
I mean, like I was saying earlier, modems are very fun with live streaming, so there you go.
Yeah, right.
They just work every time.
We got some more questions, or what do you got there, Thomas? You got a queue?
I will happily bring in some more questions here. Where are they going to land the 15-kilometer hop next to the pad like the other hop test? I believe it's the same landing pad, right?
Yep, same
Yeah, I
landing
think so.
pad.
So it should be right next. So basically, the end result of this hop test should hopefully be the exact same as the end result as the previous hop test, going from this launch pad to that landing pad, just taking a much longer route this time.
Yeah, I was about to reply something snarky, but yeah, the intended landing pad.
Well, that's true.
right next to where Starship currently is. The actual landing pad is most likely the ocean, and that's not just me being pessimistic. I mean, Elon did say 33% chance it's going to land successfully where they want it to go. So that means if you do the math, about a 2/3 chance that it ends up in the ocean, or maybe, I guess I shouldn't say that. There's probably some amount of chance it also lands back on the pad, which would not be good. But I don't think that's a very likely outcome, or they would not be doing this test, because that would be quite a big setback. So I think they're fairly confident they can get it out over the water at least, but certainly the most probable landing location is the ocean, the Gulf of Mexico, just because this is a risky test flight they have not done before.
That would be way better than the landing pad. We want it to remain a landing pad and not a crater.
It's true. If it does land on the landing pad, it has to land perfectly. We don't want it to land off nominally on the landing pad, because that causes problems.
Yes, because then it becomes a cratering pad.
Yes. Although, I mean, I don't think there's a huge amount of risk on the initial ascent. I mean, they've done several static fires and have a lot of data to see how 3 Raptors performing together are. I feel like the initial ascent isn't too risky. I really think all the risk is on the way down.
Agree.
So, we'll see. Famous last words, of course. But
also, I'm also just curious how it fares once it starts speeding up on ascent. You know, before they shut the engines off, when they're going through some dense atmosphere and they're going faster than they ever have before. Like, how do those aero covers do? Does an aero cover get torn off by just the wind blowing into a small uneven seam or something? I mean, I know we're not expecting it necessarily to go supersonic, or if it does, maybe just barely, but on the way
it should stay subsonic for sure.
Okay.
I believe there was a note somewhere that they can go a little higher than 50 kilometers before speeds become supersonic. I think they're saying subsonic for this one.
So what I've seen is in the FAA document that came out in July, there's a statement about on descent, they only will go supersonic at heights of 30 kilometers or more. But I don't know what that means for ascent. I mean, Falcon 9 and rockets of all kinds break the sound barrier on the way up all the time, and it doesn't cause any issues or sonic booms on the ground, right? So I am curious at what point on ascent we will start to see that like transonic cloud happen.
Here is a super chat that kind of touches on this. He said, Nick with the super chat, thank you so much. I feel like with Falcon launches, max Q is right around 15 kilometers. Is that the reason for the height of this test? No. So you are correct that 50 kilometers is about, I think we looked back, it's around that area is when max Q on a Falcon 9 launch happens. However, that only happens at that point if you are continuously at full throttle or near full throttle the entire way up. This, for the SN8 flight, the top altitude that the vehicle will reach will be 15 kilometers, but it will not be under full throttle the entire way up. It will thrust for a certain amount of time and then shut down the engines, and its momentum will carry it the rest of the way up to 15 kilometers. So I don't think there's any correlation between the max Q height of a Falcon 9 and the height of this test. I think this height is more based on how high do you need to go in order to effectively test the belly flop landing maneuver and things like that. I wouldn't connect it to a max Q requirement. Max Q will obviously happen before that for this flight. Probably, in fact, I'd have to check. It might happen at main engine cutoff because the dynamic pressure might still be rising when MECO happens. So that might actually technically be max Q. It'll be interesting to see how that works, because it is a relatively low altitude flight as far as spaceflight goes, I guess. We have a super chat here that says, just trying to summon Chris B, and he says, shuttle, shuttle. So I think Chris B's hanging out in chat somewhere, so thank you for the super chat. Okay, I missed this reference, and it's come up in a super chat again. I know it showed up in our Discord too. Thank you, Taylor, for the super chat. It says the thrust is 3. What does that mean? Where did that come from?
The thrust is 3?
Yeah, I missed that one entirely somehow.
Dude, how does that need any explanation? It's just 3.
You know what? You're right. The thrust is 3. I'm sorry. That was self-explanatory.
Thomas, I mean, that's just a fundamental law of nature. I thought you're going to fancy college over there with your aeronautics and you know about rocket aerodynamics. I mean, you should know that the thrust is 3, dude. That's like day 101 stuff here.
I was gonna say it's like a 400 level course. It's like,
okay, yeah.
What is it? It's like engineering, aerospace 403. What is the thrust? And you just go there, and they're like 3, and then you leave.
Okay. I'm sorry about that. Yeah, self-explanatory. Thank you so much. And he says, keep up the fantastic work and be safe on your travels. Thank you, Taylor. We appreciate it.
The correct answer is 1 unit, by the way.
1 unit. There you go.
There you go. I mean, if the unit is Raptor engines, then the thrust is definitely 3. So.
Here you go.
Mr. Morgan says it'll go up, it'll come down, one way or another. That is true. Thank you for the super chat. Yeah, it's not the question whether SN8 will land, it's how it will land is what we're trying to figure out.
Hopefully in a controlled manner, at the very least over the water, into the water. That would be great. Even a controlled belly flop into the water would be great, right? Like it would validate their control scheme, which is extremely novel. And I don't think anything has used anything like that before, except for basically a skydiver.
It's like successfully got it to belly flop. Good. All right.
Yeah. Successfully didn't fail too badly.
Task failed successfully.
There you go.
I think the big one will be getting it up to 15 kilometers, and so meaning that they'll get data on the way down. What happens on the way down? The better it goes, the farther along they've advanced their development thing. But they will, as long as they get data on the way down, that's sort of the big thing. So I think I agree with you guys there.
Got some truck action there, it sounds like.
We've got, here's a super chat. Why didn't they put the landing pad much further away from everything? So what kind of went into where the landing pad went? That's the same landing pad they used for the low altitude hop test, up to 150 meters. And if you're only going that high, you can't really go too far away. So I guess it was probably just a matter of not building another landing pad. Again, just like Falcon 9 does, Starship SN8 will target the ocean, Gulf of Mexico to be more specific, during the entire descent until the final landing burn occurs, and then it will fly over to the landing pad, which is just on the shore there. So there's not too much. If it gets that far, the odds of it landing softly are better. So it's not a huge risk, I think, the location of the landing pad. Obviously, if something goes wrong in the very last parts of the test, which is certainly possible given this is such a new test flight, but I don't know if it's a huge risk item. I don't know if you guys might disagree with me on that. What do you think?
What was the question?
It was just
Thomas,
talking
I'm
about,
sorry.
is there a lot of risk in putting the landing pad so close to the launch pad and the tank farm and things like that?
I don't think so. I mean, I think they're a little bit further away than you think they are. You know what I mean? It's not like they're connected to each other. And remember, Elon's whole plan, his grand scheme, is to land these things back on the launch mount, right? So if they
Way
want,
down the line. That's like a
yeah,
way down, like even in the near term for super heavy launches, they're still going to land on a landing pad and then use a crane. But yeah, that's like a future evolution thing.
that's like his grand scheme. He keeps saying that he wants them to land right back on the launch pad, right, or on the launch mount. But I don't. They still target off the landing site first, right? And then once everything's going nominally and they get to that point, that's when they sort of retarget, like they do with the. I assume the
Yeah.
Starship's doing the same thing that the Falcon
Yep.
9 does, where they target just offshore, and then their final burn is what pushes them over onto the landing pad. And so you're really sort of mitigating the risk. It's not like you're just barreling down ballistically at the launch site the entire time. You're sort of barreling down ballistically at way off the launch site of the ocean, and then at the last second, when everything's going well, the engines relight. That's what actually steers you over to the pad. If the engines fail to relight, so this thing was just going to become a literal bomb falling out of the sky, then it would just land in the ocean. It wouldn't be anywhere near the pad, right? And once they relight, they have to relight in order to steer it over to the target. You know, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Cool.
All right, now we got a whole queue of super chats that just say the thrust is 3. So there you go.
You're making us money, Thomas.
Yeah. So yeah, it was all planned. I definitely I totally knew what thrust is 3 meant. 100%. Fireball, thank you so much for the super chat. Taylor with another super chat. Starship is 3 engines, so thrust is 3. Yeah, obviously I should have seen that coming. Thank you so much.
3.
I just laughed so hard. I turned my comms off, like I quit out just accidentally. At Thomas's indignant, yeah, I should have known what the thrust is 3. Absolutely hilarious.
And now we have a super chat saying that we need a thrust is 3 T-shirt.
Yeah, we've been saying that. We need to figure out a good design for that. Maybe just like a 3 Raptor engines in a triangle, as if you were looking up at the aft section. From underneath it, something like that. Some kind of thrust is 3 shirt would be cool.
Don't overcomplicate it.
Literally just the text, thrust is 3.
3
I'd buy that shirt, easy.
It's a conversation starter.
If I buy that shirt, I test out of AE 403 and I don't have to go to that class, so we're good.
You don't have to go to the class. Oh no.
The professor's a real jerk, but the test is really easy. Just
wear the T-shirt.
Let's see, and we got one more super chat. If SN8 lands softly on either water or the landing pad, I don't think I'll be able to contain myself. Yeah, I think that'll be a pretty resounding success, any sort of soft landing. I think I'm not sure where I'll be able to contain my thoughts and excitement regardless of the outcome, because it's either going to be in a fantastic explosion or an amazingly impressive landing or something in between. So it'll be spectacular to see, and I'm jealous of the people down in Boca Chica who are going to be able to see it with their own eyes. So
sorry, I got this. The magnitude of the thrusting shall be 3. 4 shalt thou not thrust, neither thrust thou 2,
right.
excepting that thou then proceed to 3. 5 is right out. You can put it on the back in small text. 3.
Alright, trying to get some more questions here. Here is one. Will the actual hop, whenever it takes place, take place during daylight so that SpaceX can get better views of what is happening, or can they do the big flight at night? Do we have insight into this?
Thomas, do you have any relation to this person?
You know, I wasn't going to point it out, but I'm pretty sure I know the person who asked this question. But yeah, I legitimately don't think I know the answer, though.
So that FAA thing that I always talk about from July says that they can do 1 launch a year at night, but I would be willing to bet a lot of money that they'll do this flight, and probably the majority of these flights during the day, because you want to be able to see what the heck is going on.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's
And
possible that they could do a night launch. A night launch is possible, but
do
not
they
for the
have what?
first one, and not for probably any of the first ones. But eventually, not out of the question.
I'm pulling up the times for the actual airspace restrictions because I tweeted them earlier.
It's
And
until Sunday night, nonstop.
yeah, well, no, okay, so that's what I thought too. But then if you actually click on the actual text for the airspace restriction, the FAA website doesn't give you all the information. The actual text does say their daily windows.
That would make more
So
sense.
yeah, so it opens at 8 a.m. local time and ends at 5 p.m. local time. So
Okay.
it's limited between those hours. So this particular flight, at least based on the airspace restrictions, does have to take place during daylight. So there you go.
This is why we have an actual, aerospace person on the stream.
Always got to check the fine print on those NOTAMs. They're never straightforward.
Yeah, that makes a lot more sense. I was wondering how in the world they got permission to shut down that amount of airspace
Yeah.
continuously for that long. I think there's even like 2 airports, the very north portion of the TFR,
Yes.
inside the TFR. So I guess you cannot fly out of those airports for several hours a day.
Sometimes the flight restrictions have exceptions for air traffic traveling to these particular
have
airports.
an expert on the stream. Okay, go
That's
ahead.
one. Okay. Because they are right on the border, so in theory you can like sneak into the airport without really disrupting things. But sometimes that happens.
Okay. Thank you, Thomas.
And that answers this other question that says, is there a time on Friday for the launch? The windows for the airspace restrictions are 8 a.m. local to 5 p.m. local. So there you go.
And and I do believe the actual launch window opens at 9. So they have like they always have some buffer so that
that's true.
They can clear out the airplanes and make sure the range is clear beforehand. So 8 is when we'll probably start seeing pad clearing operations and whatnot if they're running on time. And then 9 will be the earliest potential hop time. However, of course, this is a test flight. They could have lots of issues. It could easily slip into the day for a variety of issues, including technical reasons, weather, range safety violations. This is the first time SpaceX is going to be enforcing a range of such large scale by themselves, so I wouldn't be surprised if they have some issues with wayward boats or planes interfering into the range. But I guess the planes are less likely. I think the pilots are pretty good about respecting the TFRs, but all those recreational boaters is what I would put my money on as potentially being a challenge for SpaceX. We'll have to see what happens. So I don't mean to say that boaters are lesser than pilots, but I just think there's a lot more of them, and I'm sure 99% of the boaters know what they're doing, but all it takes is one person to scribble a launch. So just due to the large amount of boaters in the South Padre area, I think that is definitely a potential concern. And in fact, SN6, I think SN5 or 6 had a launch attempt scrubbed due to a boater.
All right, we've got the queue of super chats is growing again, so let's get through some of these. Mr. Morgan Kell with another one says thrust is 3. Wrong. The right answer is 42. Well, 42 is always the right answer, but I'm pretty sure the thrust is 3. At least that's what I've been told.
Yeah, really quickly, Thomas.
Yeah.
So we're seeing something we've never seen before right now, and that is we see solid frost at the. We're not seeing a pretty big vent again, but we're now seeing solid frost on the liquid oxygen tank during a non-cryogenic proof test. So during the proof test of liquid nitrogen, they fill the tanks mostly all the way up because nitrogen's inert. If something goes wrong, there will not be an explosion. But during the normal testing sequences with actual Raptors involved, when they use the actual propellants, they put a lot less in the vehicle in case something goes wrong. Before the flight, they're going to need more propellant. And what we're seeing right now is that the liquid oxygen levels have surpassed the thrust section. It's sort of like a bulkhead at the bottom that dips down. But the levels of liquid oxygen in that bottom tank have now risen high enough that the liquid oxygen is touching the outer skirts of Starship. That is why we are seeing frost right now. So this is perhaps the most propellant they have ever put in Starship. I'm not sure how much methane is in there right now, but we could be seeing the most actual propellant put into a Starship at the pad right now.
Yeah, it's not like the fanciest milestone ever, but it's definitely a milestone. and especially considering everything we've seen so far, like you were saying, Michael, has been minimally fueled. This is another step on the road to an orbital Starship, but even just on the road to the 15-kilometer flight.
And again, we're not expecting a static fire, but this is supposed to be a wet dress rehearsal like they will do for the hop. So that's probably why we're saying a lot more propellant put in Starship than normal. But I will once again caveat that all by saying plans have changed last minute in the past, and there was an alert notice put out to residents. So they do have the option to static fire tonight if they wanted to, although our most recent understanding was that that was not the plan. However, once again, plans can change, so a static fire is not completely out of the question tonight.
We've got a super chat here from Tyler Gray saying, "Howdy everyone, reporting in from my hotel room. Keep up the good work." Thanks, Tyler. And Tyler has been posting lots of photographs from Boca Chica, and he's down there helping us out with our NASA spaceflight coverage of the upcoming hop test or flight test. Some people gets mad when I call it a hop because it's going so high. It's not really a hop anymore. But
it's a flight. You want to have this
yeah.
flight, but I don't want to take Tyler's steam away. What up, Tyler? But like, you do your thing. And
Tyler didn't call it a hop. I called it a hop. Tyler's not involved in this. Tyler's got it right.
I mean, I put hop in the title, so I might be in trouble with Jack.
That's true. Michael did do that.
I mean, you know me. I like to be overly specific about words, and then sometimes probably be wrong. So,
I mean,
but no, for real, it's a flight. They're using control surfaces. It's not just going straight up and straight down. It's flying at an attitude that is not just jumping up and then falling back down. It's going to reorient itself as it falls. It's a flight. I've been calling it a flight. You can call it whatever you want, but I might fist fight you next time I see you.
I would argue that the 150-meter hop was also a flight.
Are all hops flights, but not all flights are hops? Is that what we're going with right now?
So, yeah, exactly. Squares and rectangles, all the way down.
SpaceX, in an official SpaceX tweet, SpaceX referred to Starhopper's 150-meter flight as a flight. So, flight is definitely a correct word. I'm not going to argue that. Like, that's obvious. But the question is it like a square is also a rectangle kind of thing, but a rectangle is not a square? That's the question we have to debate.
Welcome to That Spaceflight Live, where we are now just debating whether things are hops or flights.
I'm going back through Elon tweets. It does not look like he's ever. To be fair, I'm not seeing him ever refer to the
top vent. By the way.
Oh yeah, there we go.
Yeah, sorry.
Called off. Do nose cone header tank is venting?
Since I'm actually watching the stream.
Yeah, I'm reading Elon's tweet. Okay, Elon used the word flight in one tweet related to the 15-kilometer event.
Yeah, in the tweet, did he say it's not a flight? Is that how he referred to it?
He has two tweets that mention 15 kilometers, and both of them use the word flight, not hop. But he didn't say hop was not okay. So, if we're going by SpaceX's official communications, I think Jack has a fair argument that flight might be better.
All right, it's a flight. Consider it.
It's definitely a flight. I'm not arguing that it's not a flight. I'm just saying it could also be a hop.
I just want to shout out Austin Bernard, who just tweeted the thrust is 3.
Yep, I retweeted it. It's 3 even when you don't think it's 3. It's always 3. If you ever have, if life's ever throwing you a curveball, just rest assured, thrust is 3.
Did I put that in the right channel? Yeah, I think I did. All right, good.
That's always my biggest fear, is putting something important to the wrong channel.
Hey, I'll grab some super chats real quick if we could. We're a little bit behind in them. Colin Cleveland saying the thrust is 3 divided by 42. The answer to everything equals SN14 to orbit and land. Nice, Colin. I like the math. Well done on that one. Also, Raptor22 says, I've already click it again. There we go. I've already bet $50 to a foolishly overconfident friend, joking that we'll end up with a new landmark in Boca Chica, the SN8 crater. It's like a location you would discover in Fallout, right? Where you see a little triangle on you, and then you walk over, and then it's like, discovered, SN8 crater. There's like loot in the bottom of it. If Elon says it's 1 in 3, it's probably even lower. Wow, so you think it's even lower than 1 in 3. Still
No
exciting.
way.
You don't think
Yeah,
so,
I don't know. I
Jack?
feel like Elon would undersell it.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, Elon sandbags. If you remember back the first Falcon Heavy launch, he said 50-50% chance. I don't think Falcon Heavy Demo 1 had a 50-50 chance of
Right.
going well. It was
Yeah, no
clearly
way.
far more than 50-50. They wouldn't have risked the historic 39A on something that was that risky. So I think Elon, if you look at his public statements for things like this in the past, he sandbags. So I think he probably internally to SpaceX and probably internally to him, it's more than 33%. Maybe not much more, but more.
He also has, said that drone ship weather was a big concern, and the landing was going to be risky on multiple occasions. And I don't think SpaceX has ever. I could be wrong on this, but I don't think SpaceX has ever failed a drone ship landing when Elon said there was a high risk involved since they've been successfully landing Falcon 9. I could be wrong on that, but he's multiple times he said there was a higher than normal risk today and nothing ever happened. So Jack is certainly right about that. That being said, I still think there's a lot of risk with this flight.
I agree. I agree that there's a lot of risk with this flight. That's for sure. I think we can all agree on that. Ralph Lawrence, PHP, apparently super chatting code, I guess. Capcom, Starship, you're go for throttle up to 3. Starship, you're go for throttle up to 3. Nice.
Speaking about risk, though, here's a question. Which, out of the most exciting launches in the past, we'll say 4 years, where does the hop rank? I shouldn't say the hop, the 15-kilometer test flight, where does that rank? In terms of
as far as excitement goes or risk goes?
No, in terms of, well, it depends how you weigh things. Just in terms of how about we say in terms of viewer entertainment, where does the 15-kilometer test flight rank in terms of all suborbital and orbital launches since, let's say, 2016?
2015?
Well, I said 2016, but we'll say 2015 to include the first SpaceX landing. So yeah. We'll go from 2015 to now.
I mean, I would say Falcon Heavy. I mean, probably this is what everyone is most excited for out of anything, with Falcon Heavy and Demo 2 close behind. Falcon Heavy was insane. I mean, Falcon Heavy Demo 1 was absolutely insane.
I would say... Go ahead, Us.
No, I'll wait for y'all. I'll toss mine in at the end.
I would say, in terms of anticipation, we waited the most for Falcon Heavy. That was
true.
10 years. That was almost 10 years of waiting.
Yeah.
Oh, we're seeing the tri-venting now, so we're seeing that again. I'll add that to the timeline. The Falcon Heavy had the most anticipation. This has had 2 years of anticipation maximum, more like a year. But in terms of risk, this is by far the most risky. So I'm willing to almost say that this might be the highest on my list, just in terms of what I expect to be feeling when this thing launches. I think Demo 2 was obviously the most important, and it had the most on the line, but most of us expected that to go smoothly just because they'd done so much testing. Go ahead, Doss.
Everybody get their @keys ready to @me on this.
I'm
not excited for the launch. I'm not excited for the launch. Whatever. It's going to launch. It'll go up. I'm excited for the landing.
All right, fair.
I want to break this into 2 events, and I want the launch to go up. It's all right, good, yeah, let some engines go up. Well done. Physics, that's how it works. Great. I want to see the belly flop maneuver, and I want to see if this thing can get into some sort of orientation where it has any chance of actually having a landing leg touch the ground before the landing leg continues through the rest of the vehicle, tearing everything to pieces before it actually impacts the ground. That's what I'm excited about.
We've got a ton of venting near the bottom of the vehicle right now, by the way.
I don't think we've seen those tri-vents do venting with that level of volume or intensity.
Yeah.
This is intense. I wish.
Try
I mean,
Cascade.
my perspective from this right now is basically 90 degrees to the left of the feed. So I can see everything all these vents shooting off to the side of the vehicle. It looks so cool.
Okay,
Yeah.
but just to follow up on what Doss is saying, let's just include the landing, because we included OrbCom because we were including the landing. So as the entire event, in summation, from start to finish, which is the most exciting flight of a rocket of any kind since 2015?
Well, so here's the weird thing. So from my perspective, I was not even following SpaceX in 2015. I was following spaceflight like generically.
Okay.
But I like SpaceX hadn't even like been on my radar. It was this weird thing, and I probably heard of the landing like after the fact and like sort of a passing. Like I wasn't I didn't really understand what was going on for some reason. I didn't catch on till the first drone ship landing, CRS-8. So that's actually probably not on my list. The most exciting, I'd probably rank Demo 2 first, even though there wasn't necessarily the highest risk, but it was high stakes, and just how important that was. I think I'd put the SN8 hop or flight. Sorry, I'm gonna stop calling it hop. It's the SN8 flight between Demo 2 and the Falcon Heavy demo. I think is where I'm putting it. Just because Falcon Heavy demo was lower risk than this one as well, and but it was also okay if Falcon Heavy demo went wrong because they would just work from it and go again.
I don't know about that though, because I've heard some people tell me, in terms of SpaceX getting Falcon Heavy certified for this upcoming, or this not upcoming, it's now over, competitive competition between Blue Origin, Northrop Grumman, and ULA, they really had to have that demo flight work to prove to the Air Force, now the Space Force, that they were going to be able to do what ULA can also do right now in the future. So I think if that test had gone wrong, it depends how it went wrong, but if that test went wrong and it was something that took like a year to fix, they could have been in deep trouble, and the confidence level with the Air Force would have decreased a lot. So I think that was a really crucial success for SpaceX.
I think, and just we can wrap this up if we want, but it made me think. Thomas talking about the landings, and I mean, for me, the landings weren't even that. I mean, they were exciting at the time because it was like, yeah, they're gonna stick this eventually. But for that same reason, it was in a lot of ways like it was exciting, but not like, oh my gosh, or like really anxiety inducing or anything. It was just like they're gonna stick it. One of these landings, they're gonna eventually get it, and then they finally did. I mean, I remember, I think, what was it, like Jason 3 or something? It was one of the ones from Vandenberg where it came down through fog and it caused some condensation on one of the landing legs and stuck the landing on the drone ship, but one of those landing legs didn't lock. So it slowly tipped over. Like you could tell, like they're gonna get this. They're on the right track. They're gonna get it eventually. So I do think between Falcon Heavy, probably Starhopper, and then SN5 and this. Those are the really major ones to me, because Starhopper was the first time Raptor flew, and Starhopper was just insane in general. And SN5 was the first time that sort of configuration flew, and was also insane in general. And this has SN8 has the benefit of being much more of a rockety rocket. It's got a nose cone, it's got symmetrical thrust. The thrust is 3, so yeah. But at the same time, they're doing so much more with SN8. So I really do think SN8 is kind of the big one so far. I would have a hard time refuting that.
Yeah, I think we'll have to circle back on this conversation after the flight is over and see how exciting it ended up being. Because a lot of times it happens, there's so much anticipation, and then you kind of end up being disappointed because it goes behind a cloud on the actual day or something. So,
what? Something exciting happening behind a cloud with SpaceX? We would know nothing about that, would we?
I actually wouldn't. I wouldn't know.
Oh yeah, Dawes was out on a boat. He got to see it.
That's right.
Yeah. If you guys don't know what we're talking about, we're talking about the in-flight abort test earlier this year, back in what was it, March or something?
Something like that.
SpaceX blew up a Falcon 9 booster shortly after separating a Dragon capsule from it using the launch abort system. And of course, it's a very highly anticipated test from all of the launch photographer gang, because
5 years of waiting. 5 years of waiting.
It's another one of those ones where we waited for years and years and years for that. And I deliberately, I took a job, and I told him when I took the job, I was like, hey, I will work, 7 days a week. I don't care. Whatever hours you want me to work, I'll do it. But these days in March, I cannot be here. I have to go watch a rocket explode. And they were like, what? And I was like, no. We know it's a good thing. Like, we know for once, we know it's going to happen, and we get to see it explode, and it's going to be amazing. And sure enough, on the day, all of us assembled at Kennedy Space Center.
Yeah.
So many of us
the
assembled
3 of us were all
around.
at the press site.
Yeah, it was what was it, like 5 minutes before launch, a dark black cloud starts rolling towards the pad, and we're all just thinking like, no. So we all got clouded out. Like, it literally, like, it went into a cloud, shut off its engines, and blew itself up. So it was like boom, 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 and all we got to see was debris falling back down. But Das, you got it. You got video.
It's true.
Good job.
It's true. I destroyed a solo that day. I actually had to send the solo back because it got hit by a wave.
Oh,
Because I was on a boat.
Worth it.
And it was like, what was it? It was like 5 to 7 foot waves or something like that. And we're out on this little boat at the edge of the exclusion zone, and a wave comes over the edge and just the solo was low enough that the solo got hit, but the camera and stuff was high enough it like just barely missed that. And luckily, it killed the Ethernet port. And anytime you plugged anything into that port, the solo would reboot forever. It would just shut down and turn on and shut down and turn on and so I'm out on the boat and the solo is shutting down and turning on. I'm like, what happened? And luckily I unplugged that cable from it, and then the solo worked just fine as long as nothing was plugged into the Ethernet port. So I got lucky that day. We still live streamed that too, but I had to afterwards ship the solo back and be like, good, totally broke. Yeah, warranty. Send this back.
No, it happened. It was working fine, and then it wasn't.
No, I mean they know that they saw the footage of it, and they had all these pictures of me out there on the boat, and they're like, of course we'll help you. LiveView really has done a lot to support us getting these live streams going. So no trickery with LiveView, only joking there.
Anyway, long story short, hope for clear skies on Friday or whenever this thing happens.
And I think that I mean, certain aspects of it, there are visibility requirements where, like, space engineers might need to have a relatively clear sky to get imagery of things, which I know we're also a part of in-flight abort. It just wasn't from our perspective.
Yeah,
so if it's like way overcast, they might not launch for that reason.
This is why you want to have this is why, like, SpaceX has lots of camera angles, so that back then, I think we were all at the press site, so we only had one perspective. But like Josh said, he saw it from his vantage point.
Yeah. It's good to have lots of options.
Yeah.
That's what we do. It's good to have lots of options.
Top vent again.
Jeez.
Yep. And we got, I mean, that frost for the I guess that's the bottom of the, is that the bottom of the methane tank that's now frosted? Or am I just seeing? Because it's not a band of frost. Is that where the bulkhead is?
Yeah, that's the top of the.
That would be the top of the LOX tank.
Yeah.
And it's sort of, and the common bulkhead would be the opposite of the shape of the frost that we're seeing.
That's weird, yeah.
Okay, so then that's what I was like, is that a bulkhead shape? But I guess it's not.
Yeah, the methane tank is.
It also wouldn't make sense because 3D
on both sides.
Yeah, so never mind.
Yeah, the methane tank on top is convex on both sides of the tank. So the top is a bulge going up, and the bottom of the methane tank is a bulge going down. And then the interior, the common bulkhead there, it's like a cup for the top of the LOX tank, and the bottom of the LOX tank is the thrust dome, like the convex is the right term, I think, there.
So that is weird.
This is so cool to see in person.
Yeah.
I mean, it's nuts. I've seen Falcon 9 do all of its venting, and like we'll be there for a Falcon 9 launch, and we'll see like, oh, it's the 20-minute vent, but to see SN8 sort of blasting out of that that's really the nose cone vent is what's getting me right now, because it's so pronounced and it's lit up very well from my perspective. It's just like this vehicle is active and it's ready to go, and holy cow, it's going to fly.
Yeah. If it wasn't for COVID, I know I would be down there right now. But
same here.
Just if you can't drive, I don't think it's a responsible thing to do right now.
Right.
Yeah, and it goes without saying, I don't know if you can hear it, but I'm wearing my mask right now. Like, we're outside. There's nobody within like 20 feet of us. We're doing extreme distancing. We're taking all the precautions that we can. We slept in my car on the way out here. Like, we're not going, as much as I'd love to go hang out with Tim or Austin. Like, I've seen both of them. We've done like an air fist bump. I've seen Gene and Rachel from Space Padre. It's really nice to see everybody. I saw Ryan. Haven't seen Mary Liz yet, but we can't really hang out or like congregate or do any of the stuff that we normally would do. So, but we're being safe and we're doing what we can to bring these images to the rest of the world safely.
Taking steps to mitigate or reduce the number of people, the number of meat bags we need out there in order to bring the coverage.
We also have 8.7, almost 8.8 thousand people watching. So if you think about that, by Jack and Mary and Tyler all being down there to help bring us this footage, we are able to help reduce the amount of people that have to be down there to watch the test, because all of you can tune into our live stream and enjoy it safely that way.
Yep, I like it.
All right, we've got a big old queue of super chats that we should tackle once again here. Shep with the super chat. We picked up that frost on. Again, this chat, the queue's a little old. We did pick up frost on the LOX tank. Thank you so much for your support. Here's a question: do engineers account for ice and the condensation on their flight platform calculations? I think Tori Bruno might have talked about this before when people asked about the ice that forms on an Atlas V rocket. I think he said that the weight is negligible, so they account for it by doing the math and figure out that they don't have to actually put it into their calculations, I think is the answer, and I would imagine it doesn't really change between rockets.
I think a lot of it falls off at liftoff.
And also that, yeah. So, I think they think about it, they make sure they consider it, but I don't think it's a significant enough weight that it affects vehicle performance in any way. Nick with the super chat, answering our previous question about what was the kind of most exciting SpaceX things. He says Crew Demo 2 was highest, then Heavy, and then this 15-kilometer flight. I think that makes sense, and I think Michael's point about maybe the Heavy demo was higher stakes than what I was giving it. So I could see that. I think those are the top three right now for sure.
Another amazing thing about Heavy demo, I thought, is that it had so much hype that it totally lived up to the expectations, unlike the flight aboard. If you were viewing it in person, at least. I mean, the Falcon Heavy demo, we did not. I mean, we expected it. I think the simultaneous booster landing was really cool to see.
Yeah.
You could kind of like imagine in your mind what it would look like just based on the single booster landings being seen. The total surprise was the Starman thing. We knew they were going to be setting a Tesla up, but we didn't know if they were going to have live camera views for 6 hours after launch. So that was
also
cool.
Surprise.
That was totally cool.
It is like the biggest flex of all time ever in history. I'm not even kidding. Like, holy cow. What an amazing thing. And yeah, I think you're right, Michael. I mean, it absolutely lived up to the hype. That's another one of those ones where for 6 months to a year beforehand, I carefully planned my life around being able to be there. I was at Playa Linda for that one, and wow. I mean, I remember thinking, I specifically chose Playa Linda rather than the Feel the Heat tickets or whatever at Kennedy Space Center.
Yeah.
Because I was under the impression that the vehicle wasn't going to roll, and orientation from Playa Linda is basically straight on to all three boosters, so it doesn't look like a triple stick. It just looks like a single stick. But sure enough, it took off and started. Or no, sorry, I think it was I might be getting it wrong. Basically, so I didn't go to Feel the Heat because it was a single stick looking thing, but at Playa Linda you could see all three. And sure enough, at launch it takes off and started rolling, and oh my God, I didn't even know what to think. I'm just like, oh my God, it's rolling. It's not supposed to roll, but it apparently was, and it was fine. I was wrong, but yeah, that was a little bit of a heart skipping moment. But what an amazing launch, and seeing those two boosters come back in the daytime and flawlessly land. I mean, oh man, if I had a time machine.
That was pretty cool, honestly.
Yeah. That liquid oxygen tank, though, is really frosting up.
Yeah, I was going to point that out.
I mean, there was a lot of speculation about how much liquid oxygen would be required for the 15-kilometer test flight. I mean, it's hard to say, does the outside get cold all the way up, even with a little bit on the outside? But, I mean, it's not going past the methane tank, so it seems to me that it's likely a fairly accurate representation of how much liquid oxygen is in the tank. I don't know if anyone else agrees or not, but it certainly seems like there's a good amount of liquid oxygen in that tank right now. I mean, the frost is almost to the top, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's getting more dense in that lower region too, over time.
Yeah.
Here's a super chat, and here's another take on the hop versus flight debate. A hop can end in various ways, but a flight lands.
I mean, you hope so. You know what I mean? I mean, we hope that the flight lands, but does it not end up being a flight if it doesn't stick the landing? That sort of sets that requirement, doesn't it?
I mean, then you argue, what is it? I mean, it's definitely going to land, you know.
Well, it could water.
It will hit the ground at some point.
It may hit the water.
Or the water. That's still a water landing is still a landing.
But there's no land involved. It's water. It's a watering.
Oh, that's a good point.
It's technically a splashdown.
It's the splashdown. There you go. I like water.
I think like to technically call when capsules land into water, they call it a splashdown.
So. All right, that's true. Yeah. Boo.
Philip has a question. How tight do you think the flight termination system corridor will be for this? I would imagine it is just the airspace restriction area, and if the flight loses control and is going to leave that area, then the flight termination system would activate.
Yeah, it would probably be slightly smaller than that, though.
Right. So, like with a certain error of
like debris flying outside, You go ahead.
I wasn't saying anything.
Oh, I was gonna say. I mean, a lot of it's based on the predicted trajectory of where it would end up. Mm-hmm. So, I think it depends on a lot of factors. Probably. I mean, I don't know for sure, but I'm guessing it probably takes into account the current velocity. I'm not sure if they are using an automated flight termination system like they do on Falcon 9. It's probably just this. It might just be some name for button for this, but it's probably more complicated, I would think, than the actual. Ooh, there's a lot of venting. It might be more complicated than just a specific location. That's what I'm getting at.
That was a powerful vent.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like one of the most powerful vents we've seen from that location, I think.
Then again, we are seeing much more liquid oxygen loading than we've seen before, so could make sense.
I don't think we've ever seen that much coming out of that one vent at once.
You can see the vent above it. There's a vent above it that's venting too, but is that from the methane tank?
Yep.
That could just be pressurization though.
Yep.
So this could be a depress.
Header tank was going pretty strong too. There it goes again.
Wow.
The frost is like completely solid. No.
Looks like it's got a waistcoat on or something, like a vest almost.
Yeah.
It's got like stitching down the front and everything.
It's looking like looking like Electron does during its West Rehearsal. You see the rocket turns from black to white. This is from silver to the white frost.
Starship moon version prototype, perhaps.
Right. Yeah. That's the real. The lunar starship isn't painted white. It's just constantly frosty. We have a question here. I'm trying to get through these questions queues too, from Pat, who says, I would assume it would be landing differently on Mars. So the main difference between the Earth landing and the Mars landing will be that Mars's thinner atmosphere means you get a little less work done by the drag. So the landing burn will start higher up and faster just because you can't do as much work using the thinner atmosphere. But the maneuver itself will be relatively the same, I think. Just a matter of kind of scaling it up based on the atmospheric density. I think it looks more dramatic on Earth, I think, just because you can do it later, closer to the ground because of the Earth's denser atmosphere. That would be my guess. And a question here, why is the launch pad so close to the tank farm? Well, the tank farm is there to supply fuel and other commodities to the vehicle while it's sitting on the pad. So if you make it really far away from the launch pad, yes, you could say that would mitigate the risk of if something happens on the launch pad damaging those systems, but you also make it harder for those systems to actually do their job. So the tank farm is almost always close to, I mean, if you look at the launch pads at Cape Canaveral or at Vandenberg, they all have fuel tanks and tanks around the pads right next to it. So that's a very common thing to do. That's not a weird thing here in Boca Chica. And that's just a matter of that's where the commodities that those tanks provide are needed at the launch pad. So
there's also fairly limited space out there. If you look at, I mean, Google really needs to get their act together and update the satellite imagery of Boca Chica.
Mhm.
But if you look at RGV aerials images, I guess is probably a better resource. You can really see at that orbital launch site they have very little space to add additional tank farm for that larger super heavy booster. So that will be interesting to see how they work that out. But definitely limited space out there. They have a small. It's not like they could easily expand more land too. There's water and marshland kind of on. Where there's a beach on one side, there's a road on one side, and then the other two sides is sort of all marshland. So not that easy to expand further.
Got a couple super chats here. Bruce, who says, should the SPMT be referred to as a SIPMIT? I guess if you wanted to pronounce, someone asked me this the other day. It's self-propelled something transporter. What's the M stand for?
Modular.
Okay, that's what I thought. So the self-propelled modular transporter, I guess you could call it a SIPMIT. Thank you so much for your support. Another super chat here. SN8 looking great. Shout out to Mary and the rest of the team for the coverage tonight. Thank you so much for tuning in and for the super chat. We appreciate it.
Yeah, really quick. I've had multiple people come up to me tonight and say like, "Hey, are you NASASpaceflight? Oh, cool! Like, thanks so much for the coverage." And holy cow, everybody! Thank you for watching. Thank you for the support. Thank you for showing your appreciation. I mean, it's awesome. Thank you.
I remember on my first ever launch with media. This is at Vandenberg a couple years ago. There was like me and a couple of other people, very small crowd, for the first day of media activities, and they're like,
What
"What
launch
outlet
was
are you
it?
from?" I'm not gonna. I'm trying to remember. Oh no, I do know this. It was Iridium 4. It was the Iridium 4. No, Iridium 6 Grace FO. That's what it was. Yes, it was a
Okay.
NASA mission. This was for the NASA press conference, which of course for some reason nobody else is going to, but a couple people. So I was like, "I'm from NASASpaceflight," and everyone's like, "Oh wow, yeah, I read their articles all the time. You guys do really good stuff," and they like thought I was important because I was for NASASpaceflight.
There you
Little did
go.
they know that I had absolutely no idea what I was doing because it was my first ever launch with
My
media
first ever
access.
launch was Crew Demo 1. So then NASA conferences and like trying to learn all the media stuff on that launch, exact same thing. I'm like, fake it till you make it, I guess.
But at least to be fair, at least you had like other NASA spaceflight people there. I was completely on my own with no idea what to do.
So I was there with Nate Barker and Brady Kennison, both there as photographers. But Chris G, who was of course the other reporter that was supposed to be there, demo one slipped enough that he was on vacation. So I was the only reporter there. So I was the only photographer. Brady went to the press conference where Elon was there and he took a bunch of pictures and stuff like that. But I was the only reporter there. So I was learning that part on my own, and that was I'm not there now, but it was definitely an experience.
It was like me and like 3 other people total. So I had.
Oh, geez.
It wasn't even like there was a non-NASA spaceflight person there that I knew that I could ask for help. It was
Right.
just me on my own and some other people who thought I knew what I was doing, but didn't realize I had absolutely no idea what I was doing, and they knew more than me. But I figured it out. Anyway, back to Starship.
Let's see. More super chats. Brian, what impact does the constant propellant load or propellant offload have on the concrete pad? So they are pretty much dumping liquid oxygen onto the pad right now. Could that have negative effects? I don't know. What do you think?
Good question. I don't know the answer.
I mean, I know I mean, the main damage coming from like all the static fires and stuff is mostly from heat and thrust. And they did talk about cooling the pad to kind of counteract that. I think the vapors from liquid oxygen venting won't do anything too, like, too notable to the pad. I mean, they've been doing just because this one is doing more venting because they've loaded more liquid oxygen. I don't think that. I feel like they would have seen effects from liquid oxygen offloading or propellant offloading prior to this, if it was something significant. So I think it's probably not something they're too worried about. There we go. Brady Keniston, one of our photographers in chat, saying his first mission was alone too for Bulgaria Sat 1. Crazy times, literally knew no one. So sometimes you get thrown in, but sometimes that's the best way to learn. And I know I still had a blast and I learned a lot. And now I go there all the time when I'm in Florida.
I mean, I think it's pretty easy. After one launch, you've got it pretty much.
Yeah. I mean, there's different things you have to get used to. You have to get used to like how all the credentialing works, and then running live streams was something I had to learn, and that was we weren't even doing.
Equipment is totally separate. That's fair.
That's true. The equipment is a different thing, but I mean, at demo 1, I wasn't doing I was there to go to the press conferences and I took a couple photos, but I was mostly there for the press conferences. And so learning how to do a NASA TV press conference is something that now we don't really get to do because all the press conferences are virtual now. I'm looking forward to those coming back. But
Brady,
go ahead.
No, I was going to ask Brady if he set remotes at his first launch, because that would be a whole nother can of worms. Because setting remotes is for the first time is one thing, and also seeing media for the first time is another. So that would be a challenge, I think. But I'm sure people, in fact, I know people have done that.
One day I'll try that, I think, but I'm focusing on the reporting for now, and I've been told that it's an addicting hobby, so.
If you want to have money when you graduate from college, I do not recommend it as a hobby.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, there's an inverse relationship between shooting remotes and making money. I should say having money. Having money.
Yeah. Brady answers you twice, says he did say remotes, 2 of them, and he had to message Tim Dodd for help. So.
Tim Dodd, by the way, he used to do a lot more of remote photography. Now he mostly does live streaming and video remotes. But if you look on his website at previous work, he has some killer remote photos back when he was focusing on that more.
And Julia Bergeron in chat says her first launch was as media was after COVID started and was with remotes fun time. So there you go. All right, here's the super chat, and I know the meme is to say these are North Korean dollars, but I know they're actually Norwegian krones. How would you react if it suddenly took off right now?
That would not be good.
Yeah, I think we would all agree that was unplanned and therefore bad. To stress this is not a flight attempt, and this is not a static fire attempt. We are expecting a wet dress rehearsal only, and that's what we're looking at right now. The flight is no earlier than Friday, based on airspace restrictions. So I think the reaction would be significant if it took off right now, because it's not supposed to do that. Here's a question. We kind of touched on this earlier because we were talking about the flight termination system. Keithanet says, how does a flight termination system actually work? So on Falcon 9 launches, they have what's called an automated flight termination system, where the vehicle is constantly monitoring how the vehicle is flying and things like that. And as long as it follows on its correct trajectory and all that stuff, everything is good. But if it deviates from that trajectory by a certain amount where it becomes unsafe, a flight termination system is effectively a pack of explosives that will blow up the rocket, and instead of allowing the rocket to continue powered flight off on some random trajectory that could be unsafe, could endanger assets downrange, they blow up the rocket into a field of debris that will fall then within the protected sort of closed off corridor. And so the Starship, we don't know if it has the automated system. It's probably a more traditional flight termination system, though we don't really know for sure. But it does. We've seen some pieces on the outside that we think are flight termination charges that would literally just blow apart the fuel tanks and allow everything to combust and explode into debris and fall within the enclosed launch corridor.
In fact, you can see those 2 charges on your screen right now, or at least what the forums tell me are the 2 charges.
Yeah, well, we're thinking we're charged. We haven't
Yes,
confirmed that, but we're pretty sure that's what they are.
If you look just above that frost line, there are those 2 white dots. Those we believe are the flight termination charges. Those are both of those were installed on SN5 and 6 right before their flight tests, and again on SN8 before its flight test. So that's why, one of the reasons at least, we think those are the flight termination charges.
We got a question here from Johnny. Where is the water? I'm assuming that means from this perspective, where is the water? I believe the Gulf of Mexico is behind us from this perspective, correct?
Yes.
Or behind Starship, sorry.
The largest body of water, the Gulf of Mexico, is behind Starship. It'd be slightly to the right is like the closest direction to the water. If you go out even straight back further, you'll still hit the Gulf of Mexico eventually. It's just like a diagonal angle. But there's also some marsh wetlands to the right. So go ahead, Jack.
Is the drone up? I think I can see it on my cam, but I don't.
It was earlier.
I can't see it with my eye, but I can see it through my camera. But it might not be in frame on. I don't have a view of what you guys are looking at right now.
And really quickly,
there was a drone up earlier.
Chris Bergen is posting a link in chat of the latest Mary video. So if you want to hop over and check that out, new daily update from Mary in chat right now. And Mary confirms that the drone is up, by the way.
Yes, so there you go.
Cool, that makes me glad I don't have a hot pixel on my sensor.
Those are always fun.
What's the solution? Get a new sensor.
A couple more super chats here. Mark, hi, just got here. Is there a specified time tomorrow for the attempt? No, because there's no attempt tomorrow. The attempt is Friday, no earlier than Friday for the 15-kilometer flight, and that is that window opens at 8 a.m. local time and closes at 5 p.m. local time, which is UTC -6 for Texas. So 8 a.m. local on Friday is the no earlier time, and that's for the airspace restrictions, but the road closures begin at 9 a.m. local, so that's actually a better target time to be specific. The best way to know when the flight is actually going to happen is to subscribe to NASA Spaceflight and turn on notifications, because we will be going live when we see them preparing for the actual flight test. No worries there. So that is because of the schedules being super fluid. If you stay tuned, we will make sure that we are live when it actually is happening. So there you go. Thank you for the super chat. All right, more questions here. On this one, we also touched on this a little bit earlier because we were talking about the difference between an automated and a more traditional flight termination system. Will the actual landing of SN8 be a computer or a person? As a Starship SN8, like almost all space vehicles these days, are not remote controlled or anything like that. They are all pre-programmed to follow a certain trajectory and all that stuff. So SN8 will be under control of its onboard computers, and that is kind of what will be in charge of the flight and landing itself included. There's no human in the loop for that kind of thing. Star Wolf with the super chat. What is hard about? Well, I clicked it and now it's disappeared off of my screen.
Yeah, that's a bug. I have been trying to fix that bug for so long, and I can never reproduce it. So it's one of those things that happens 1 in 1,000 times. So it's
all good. I think the question was about what's so hard about a relight and why is that different from just doing 2 Starfires in a row. I think on the engineering side, it's basically the same. You're just starting the engines twice. However, the stakes are higher on a relight because you are in flight and falling. So if you don't relight the engines, then something bad's going to happen. Whereas on a static fire, you can hold and wait a bit if you have to address some sort of issue. So that's really only the major difference, I think. And I think during these static fires, if they've seen the countdown kind of go towards engine ignition smoothly, then I think that gives SpaceX enough confidence. And there you go, it's showing up on screen now.
Yeah, I recycled it.
Nice. I think that's the real difference there.
Cool.
Sophia with the super chat. Thank you so much for your support. Richard, hot beverage money for Mary and Jack. Great coverage of SN8. Jack, is it cold out there?
I mean, it depends on what's cold to you. If you're used to Boca Chica weather, it's probably a little bit chilly to you. If you're used to like Florida weather, it might be a little bit chilly to you. But it's not, to me, it's not bad at all. I've got my classic orange hoodie on because you know me. I got to represent international orange.
Jack is always wearing orange.
And then let's see, it's 70 degrees right now.
I just looked it up. So not really cold out.
I just put the weather on screen. Our weather information is 69 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go with that.
Yeah. Okay. Fine.
I'm gonna say that's not really cold, but.
Well, it's okay. So I agree. To me, it's nice. Although I wouldn't want to be out here without a hoodie on, shorts or something, because I'm a baby and I'm not good with cold. I don't have a lot of insulation. You know what I mean? But Bernard, friend of the channel, stream were me.
Yeah, I can go and robot on us.
So, people, it might be cold depending on what you're used to.
There we go.
We lost it for a second,
at the end.
We got the gist, I think. Here is a technical question. Is Starship capable of hovering with a thrust of 3?
Possibly.
Oh yeah.
The joke aside, is Starship capable of hovering?
I don't think so. I could be wrong. I think just okay. It depends how much propellant is in it, probably.
Right,
I mean,
like with a full propellant load, it probably
yeah,
is.
A single Raptor could probably handle that, but with the expected amount of propellant for a landing burn, I don't think so.
I think it's
the wind completely changed directions. I just noticed.
Yeah, you're totally right. The propellant venting is moving to the right instead of the left now. Only in Texas. Does the wind change in like 30 seconds? In California, the wind always blows the same direction for several hours.
Know about the Santa Ana winds until I lived in California, and then it's like, oh yeah, once a year, Santa Ana winds, just super hot, crazy desert wind will come out of nowhere and set stuff on fire. And it's like, what? Yeah, it happens. Everything happens in California. The ground will open up and swallow you whole.
We got a super chat here from Biscuits Brown. Thank you for the support. He says he's thinking of driving down from Austin to see the flight. Is there camp? All I can say is we would highly suggest that you stay home and watch the live streams for this. We have a very limited number of media down in Boca Chica who are able to drive locally and don't have to fly or do any of that. And we have literally just the resident and 2 other people, and that's it. We kept a lot of people at home. We have the bare minimum people we need to bring the live stream, and we would rather you watch our live stream, SpaceX's live stream. There are other people. I know Tim Dodd's down there. All the other people in Boca Chica who do live streams as well. I would recommend that you pull up as many monitors as you have, watch as many webcasts as possible to see this thing from every angle. But I would, if you can at all, stay home and watch from home, just because that's the safest thing to do right now. Make sure you're, wearing a mask, staying socially distanced. We don't want anything bad to come from this really cool event. We should all be able to excitedly watch this flight happen, and not have to worry about sort of personal safety issues. So that's going to be my answer to that.
Yeah. I'll just say quickly. I mean, the main problem with this is that there is very few ideal places to watch this hop from, just because you've got the Mexican border on one side, which you're not allowed to be near, obviously, because of border security. Then you have a several mile safe. I think the hard checkpoint is like 10 miles away. Or the soft checkpoint, excuse me, but the main road closes a long way away. So the only really ideal location to watch the hop from is from the South Padre Island area. And given that that is the case, it sort of forces everybody who wants to watch the hop to congregate in one location, which is not ideal during a pandemic. So, if this was another location, maybe you could have a larger number of people socially distanced and watch the hop. But because everyone's going to want to be at one location, it is more challenging.
Yeah, I do wonder at what point they'll start to like close off a road or close off the park or close things off. Once they hit capacity. I mean, I'm expecting like shuttle or significant crowds, and it's the beach. You're outside. It's not in a non-ventilated area, but with enough people here, it'll get pretty crowded pretty fast. So I've heard rumor that they'll shut down the park at half capacity due to COVID. So that might help. Hopefully that's what happens. But like you said, there's so few ideal places to view this from that if that does happen, then you're kind of stuck over on the beach or somewhere, which will still be a good view. But yeah, it's a tricky one. And we've all seen how many starships they're building. There will be more starships. There will be more launches. Just stay safe. And I know, once again, we're doing everything that we can to limit our exposure to other people and not be around others and just stay to ourselves and just do what you can.
And I will say, we have explored, I know Jack has looked into every, possible alternative viewing location. There is really not much out there. Do not try to get in a boat to get closer because our understanding from what we've heard is that the marine, safety area is basically going to be to South Padre Island. So you're not going to be able to get closer in a boat. And if you try to get closer in a boat, you could actually scrub the hop or the launch if you end up in that safety radius during the propellant loading operations. So don't try to get closer, basically, because you could scrub the hop.
My primary concern for Friday's attempt, if that ends up being what happens on Friday, because things are so constantly changing. But if they try to go on Friday or whenever they try and go, my primary concern is range. Honestly, like how are they going to keep boaters away? We all saw what happened with DM2 when that capsule landed in the Gulf. Like This is still the Gulf of Mexico. There's an insane number of people with boats here, and I don't know what the communication has been like on that front, but I worry that all the ducks will be in a row and the vehicle will be fueled and we'll have a wayward boat, or there'll be somebody inside the land exclusion zone who's like, I'll just hang out on the beach. It's like, no, you will not just hang out on the beach. I'm very curious what the range exclusion whole situation will end up being like. We will just have to wait and see on that. But like you said, it's basically one spot to view from, which is South Padre Island.
Yep. So long story short, if you're a local in the area and you're going to be here anyway, don't try to get extra close. Respect the hazard zones and don't try to push the limits because that could cause a scrub. And you do not want to be the person responsible for scrubbing such a high-profile event because the internet will not like that. I can tell you that much. So
our entire Twitter parody accounts centered around hating people that make range violations. So
don't be that person. And if you can, if you're far away and traveling, try to not bring a bunch of COVID to the local population in South Padre Island or Brownsville or Boca Chica. So like Jack has mentioned, like Thomas has mentioned, there'll be plenty of live streams to watch this safely at home. And also, one final point is that this test is very unlikely to actually happen on Friday. It's a possibility.
Also true.
But given this is the first time they've actually done this, there could be there's numerous reasons why this could be delayed several days. So, who knows when the hops or the test flight's actually going to happen. If you watch it at home, whenever it happens, you can just tune in.
Yeah, to that point, exactly. When I was here for Starhopper, it was like I was making jokes like it's Groundhog's Day with rockets, and this feels like the same thing all over again because you wake up and it's like maybe tomorrow, and then you wake up the next day and it's like maybe tomorrow, and you wake up the next day and it's just the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. Because hey, guess what? This isn't this isn't an operational vehicle. This is a developmental flight test. This is extremely new, and they're trying out new things, and everything has to be exactly right. So this is not like
Jack. I think Chris Bergen is telling me in our back channel there is a Zeus. Yes, Zeus is in the bottom right of our screen right now, I think. If you rewind, you can actually see it moving.
wow.
We have a robot dog. That's a Boston Dynamics Spot robot. I think Doss might know a thing or two about those, or about that, but he's not here right now. But you can actually see it walking around right now. There's a couple of lights on it, and they use that to remotely check on the vehicle without having any humans at the pad.
Wow, that looks so cool. It's the first time we've seen Zeus in a long time.
My feed is buffering. I can't see Zeus yet. Hold on.
There's like that one light that I think is actually a light, and then there's a couple of smaller lights that are actually moving around. And that is Zeus.
Some more questions? Chance, what do you got?
Yeah, sure. Let's see. Here's one we were talking about this earlier. When do you think will be a bigger event? So we're talking about like the excitement levels. The 15-kilometer hop here, or Friday, I should say, no earlier than Friday, or when the full Starship stack goes orbital, which will be more exciting?
I mean,
Full stack.
Full stack going orbital is my answer.
Yeah,
Because
for sure.
That'll have the re-entry landing of the Starship. That'll have the booster landing as well. That'll have the thrust of all the Raptors, the huge stack.
Although I do wonder, like, at this point, as big as the zone is with just the Starship, and the fact that it seems like they'll have to close the shipping channel, and then there's just so much going on with just a Starship. When they progress to a full stack, I mean, we might be in the territory where a full stack just never launches from Boca, and that requires some sort of ocean-going platform like Elon has talked about.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it does remain to be seen whether or not the orbital launch stand ever is used for that purpose. We'll have to see, but they'll certainly launch super heavy stacks from there. They can launch suborbital super heavy test flights and hops with less propellant than a full stack would require.
Yeah, totally.
Go with some more super chats. Mr. Morgan Kell with another one. I guess it'd be fair to say that if SN8 took off now, that would be a blast. Well, I'd say that's a fair guess. Thank you for the super chat. Taylor, how are they going to test super heavy without a nose cone on the end other than hop tests, flight? Or are they going to have to stack this? Oh, okay. So basically, for super heavy tests, they can do the lower altitude hop style tests like they did with SN5 and SN6. You don't really need aerodynamics to be part of that. You don't really go high enough or fast enough for aerodynamics to be super significant. And then once it's going fast enough, they'll probably be testing it with the full Starship stack, going towards orbit. If they want to do like really high altitude flights for the super heavy booster, they could put a nose cone on top just to ease the aerodynamics on the way up. I'm not sure if that's something they'll want to do, or if they'll just do low altitude hops and then they'll put, the first sort of real high altitude landing attempts will be after launching a Starship spacecraft. I don't know. Thank you for the super chat, and that's a great question. Mr. Space says the stream's going big. Sorry, let me try this again. The stream's going great. Keep up the good work, NSF. By the way, what happened to the Wednesday closure? Aren't we in the Wednesday closure right now?
Yeah, this is the Wednesday closure. And if you're wondering why they're not flying today, that's because they did not get regulatory approval in time. But it sounds like they will have regulatory approval for Friday's test flight attempt.
Yes. Because I guess today was today the first day where the road closures said 15-kilometer flight?
That started Monday. So they've had 4 days of slip so far.
Okay. Gotcha. So Chad with a super chat. So what do we think will be the operational engine configuration for a Starship, a mix of vacuum and sea level engines? I believe the current plan is 3 of each, right?
Correct.
So 6 total Raptor engines, 3 sea level, 3 vacuum. The 3 sea level engines where they are on Starship right now, and then 3 I call them Vactors, vacuum Raptor engines around the outside. I believe that is the current plan for Starship Eagles, although I saw some speculation in our Discord that some people were guessing for the tanker variant, because it'll be heavier and just full of fuel, they might add extra Raptor engines onto that variant just to help it get uphill, which I don't think would surprise me too much.
Gwynn
But yeah,
did say in an Aviation Week interview, I think, that they were looking at up to 7, so perhaps for the tanker version they could have 7.
There you go. But yes, a mixture of sea level engines and vacuum engines, which will help them during, obviously the sea level engines are used for initial ascents and landing burns, and the vacuum engines when you can take advantage of the vacuum of space and get a little more efficiency.
Seriously, hooray for that Aviation Week interview from Irene at Aviation Week. That was like seriously so much good stuff there. I feel like I referenced that one a lot, just like I referenced that FAA document. There's just so much there.
If someone at SpaceX is watching, I think that person would make I think Gwynn would make a good guest on NSF Live. I don't know what others think, but
Oh, geez,
Guest
swing
on
for the
NSF
fences.
Live. Now there's an idea.
I don't know if we'll have enough questions though. We'll have to think about that.
Now I'm reading chat. The first response to that question was someone said Gwyn. Gwyn Shawwell would be an amazing guest on NSF Live. Someone asked me not too long ago if I could choose anyone to interview, who would I interview? And I think my answer is Gwynn Shotwell, because I've been at press conferences with Elon Musk before. I've been at a press conference with Bridenstine, some other like high-level NASA people. Been in press conferences for NASA astronauts. I think Gwynn Shotwell would be an amazing interview. No, Michael, if you could choose anyone in the industry to do an interview with, who would you pick?
I don't know. I do feel like that Gwynn has to. I think she often leaves it to Elon to release new information.
That's
typically.
true.
So I think there's more potential to get information out of Elon just because he's the CEO and basically, he can release whatever he wants, unless it like violates ITAR or something.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, it's hard to say. I think I'm forgetting the person's name, but there's at a couple of conferences, SpaceX has had a Starship engineer represent them.
That's true.
I think he's been pretty interesting too. So, I mean, it doesn't even have to be an executive. It could just be an engineer who works on Starship. Probably has a lot of cool insight, as long as they're allowed to talk. If it's the kind of thing where they're only allowed to talk about public information, maybe that's not quite as interesting. But
someone's saying get Tim Dodd on here. We've had Tim Dodd on NSF streams before. We've had him on some Starship streams. We also had Scott Manley on for I think some Starship stuff and stuff for some Demo 2 stuff.
We had them both on at the same time, in fact.
Oh, that's true. And I was mad because I wasn't on that night, and you guys were hanging out with Scott and Tim without. I remember that.
That's why you show up to every stream.
And now I show up to every stream.
That's still one of my favorite streams we've ever done.
Yeah, that was a good one. I remember I was watching it.
I don't think anything happened, if I remember. I think
Yeah, I
it
seem
was
to
a
remember
scrub static fire.
whatever we were watching was like really boring and nothing happened, but we had cool people on the stream, so it was a good one. Say his name and it's appears. Scott Manley in chat. What's up, Scott?
Oh, hello.
Hello. I'm gonna go through some more super chats here. Would Starship use 1, 2, or 3 engines to land on Mars? I think we're expecting 2 on Earth. Right? Like we're kind of expecting them to start 1 engine for the turn and then light a second one because they were doing those 1 and 2 engine landing burns. Or 1 or 2 engine static fires, I should say. I'm not sure. On Mars, you have less gravity, but you start with a higher velocity because your terminal velocity is higher. So that's a great question.
Really quickly, I will point out that the frost line is starting to decrease a bit, so something just shot off from the bottom left too. But perhaps that's a sign that they might be detanking.
Perhaps.
Yes, it's definitely coming down pretty quickly. I'm doing the A/B test, so if somebody wants to check it off their bingo card, go ahead. But
Nice. I'm here, by the way. I'm sort of keeping quiet, but I'm here listening in on you guys. When we were starting the stream, I hadn't eaten dinner yet because I was working on other stuff basically all day today, and I never actually ate really lunch or dinner. And then that's why I was like, are we sure we want to do this? Like, what's happening tonight? Are we streaming this? Because I hadn't eaten dinner yet, and I was going to eat dinner.
I mean,
so I just went. I ate some dinner.
You can always ask me to help you out if you need
Oh,
me
heck
to.
no. No way. not for this. That's why I was like, are we really sure right now? Because I didn't want to start the stream and then we sit here for like 2 hours while nothing happens and I'm grumbling that I haven't eaten dinner yet. But there was clear activity at the tank farm, significant activity at the tank farm. So I'm glad that I waited on dinner. I have now had some mac and cheese with Frank's red hot sauce smothered all over it. And if I had time, I would have put some bacon on it, but I didn't have any time to put bacon on it, so we'll do that another day. I was hungry. I beat you to it, Hydra. There you go. I beat you to it.
Yeah, I just devoured a plain turkey sandwich like it was the best, finest sushi I've ever eaten in my life.
Oh, here, there you go. Now chat's going, but how do you cook the bacon toss?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Dude,
I fry it up in its own fat. Just like skillet.
Jack, thoughts?
Mess on the stove.
As long as he doesn't microwave it. We're friends still.
If I microwaved it, I would have had bacon on my mac and cheese because it would have been
Friends
fresher.
don't let friends have microwave bacon.
Oh, jeez.
For those, if people are wondering, I see some people wondering what the heck all these bingo references are. If you're in the NSF member Discord, there are way too many inside jokes that happen in that Discord.
Yeah.
Including bingo cards, including microwaved bacon.
Smiling Dolphin.
Smiling Dolphin, that's the newest one for sure.
Has anybody ever tried to air fry bacon? I don't think it would work very well. It would make a mess.
Oh man, would it just go everywhere?
It would be terrible. Maybe good, but it would be a mess to clean out the air fryer. That's for sure.
I've never used or seen an air fryer. I'm aware of their existence, but is it just like a blow dryer, basically, like a fancy blow dryer for food?
Yeah, it's like a hair dryer that cooks food. Honestly, it's like a hair dryer that cooks food. I'm not even kidding.
Pretty accurate, yeah.
That sounds terrible.
It's actually really good. Like it.
Yeah, it's good. That's the thing. It works.
It is. We thought we were like, oh, it's healthier, because if you fry stuff, you just blow hot air past it instead of putting it in grease or whatever. And so I've been air frying the heck out of some stuff lately.
I'll have to try that at some point. I never got into like the whole sous vide thing or whatever. Like I feel like every now and then I'll have a friend on Instagram or something that like post some insane cut of meat, and I'm like, can you teach me your ways?
Raptor cooked bacon. We just put Raptor cooked bacon.
Nice.
If only there was
I'm
a flame
down.
trench where we could put bacon. Oh, apparently the boss is a believer in the sous vide. Jack? Pork ribs in an air fryer. I haven't tried. Jeez, everybody's saying air fryers are great.
I zoned out for a second. Sorry, what's up?
Oh, the boss is apparently a believer in the sous vide thing.
Oh, no kidding. I'll have to pick his brain.
Yes, Sidara, I did in fact pronounce it sous vide because I knew that somebody couldn't prevent themselves from correcting me, so I had to say it wrong on purpose just so that you would pay attention to me. That's how I am. Jeez.
Also, apparently Brady said that under the NASASpaceflight account, so he's just confusing us at this point.
Oh, wait, what?
He just said, "This is Brady, by the way. I don't know what's going on."
Oops. Somebody's been uploading videos.
Of course, Brady would be into sous vide. That's like the most Brady thing ever. He's like, I like cooking, but is there a fancier way with more cool stuff I can cook with? What's the methane recondenser doing right now? Has it been doing that this whole time?
Nope, just started.
Having a party.
It's just making sure we didn't forget about the recondenser, you know? Got to talk about it every once in a while.
It's like, hey, I'm still here. Hi.
It's like we have to mention that there's a rocket on the screen on occasion, and we are in fact slightly paying attention to what it's doing.
Yeah, and we're not just talking about bacon. On that, while we get to some super chats, because it's been a minute since we've done those too. Greg with the super chat says, "Thank you guys for awesome coverage, and a big thanks to Boca Chica Gal." Thank you, Greg, for your support. We appreciate it. Benjamin says, "What do you think is the most likely failure mode during the 15-kilometer flight? My money is on an aerodynamic break between the nose cone and the tank during the skydive." Guys, thoughts?
Oh, geez.
Most likely failure mode?
Yeah.
Failure to relight engine.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Failure to relight engines.
Really? I mean, well, they've done a bunch of static fires, though.
After the wacky maneuver. You know, okay, they've done lots of static fires.
Yeah, you know what, Thomas? They haven't done a static fire hurtling through the air and sloshing the propellant all around.
And also not just where you're in a tail down trajectory the entire time. Like Falcon comes home and it's flying in with its tail. It's not doing any weird maneuvers. No sort of forces that may put fuel either scattered all throughout the tank or at one end of the tank or the other end of the tank. I know that's what the header tanks are for, but I have a feeling that that's going to be a really tricky maneuver to pull off. I want to see it. That's for sure.
I think personally my most likely failure mode is a loss of control during that maneuver. Not because of like a Raptor failure. I think I'm more leaning towards just like literally the aerodynamic surfaces are, you know, operating slightly differently than the simulations, or like it doesn't work perfectly and thus they don't quite keep control during that maneuver is what I would guess. I think. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And honestly, even just getting to the point where they can start the engines again and attempt that maneuver will be huge. Because I mean, so much about this vehicle is unproven. Like, will the aerodynamic loads as it's coming in be fine on that nose cone? I mean, the person asking this question is not on the wrong path, right? Like, for all I know, that nose cone could crumple like a soda can, you know, subjected to a extremely high wind side on when it's empty. Like, it just, you know, buckle. But yeah, I do hope they get to the point where they can at least attempt a relight and attempt that maneuver, because that is absolutely the main event here, right?
Yeah, I think so.
I'm so excited to see it. I'm so excited. I cannot wait. I really hope it goes soon.
Yeah. It looks like some of the frost is melting there down the side.
Yep, I think they are probably firmly in detanking operations by this point.
Yep.
Of course, we will wait to see. Once the crews return to the pad, then we know for sure they're done. So we have looked away too early before, and we've regretted it. I think we've learned that lesson. Here is a super chat. Enjoy watching. Thank you guys. I think Elon should hire Boca Chica Gal. My question is, how many gallons of fuel does each tank hold, including the header tank? Do we know the capacity of the fuel tanks on Starship?
Yeah, hang on a second. Stand by.
Jack's on the case.
On the case.
I'm like hurriedly rushing to Rafael Adame's Twitter.
Nice.
So okay, so here we go. The LOX main tank volume is 796 cubic meters, and that's about 979 tons of liquid oxygen. So nearly 1,000 tons of liquid oxygen in the liquid oxygen tank. In the liquid oxygen header tank, there is a further 22.9 tons approximately of liquid oxygen. So that gives you a total of, let's see, 979 tons in the main tank and 22.9 tons in the header. So nearly, what is that? No, that's almost exactly, it's what, 1,000 tons of liquid oxygen, header and main tank combined. And then the methane is, the main methane tank is 603 cubic meters, and the mass of that methane is approximately 272 tons, if I'm reading this graph correctly. So the methane header tank, finally, is 16.2 meters cubed, and the mass of that is around 7.3 tons. So around 280 tons of methane and 1,000 tons of liquid oxygen in a fully fueled Starship. If I'm reading this correctly, I will throw this link into Control Center so that y'all can post it in the chat. I'm not on the YouTube chat right now.
Yeah, I'll grab it, Jack.
Bam. But yeah, I mean, I normally would not treat numbers like this as authoritative, but this is from Raphael, and he's been watching this stuff as long as any of us, and sort of meticulously analyzes every piece and part, and is able to come to these conclusions based on information that we have. So yeah, so that's why I'm confident in these numbers, at least reasonably. So.
I think I'm on the right account. Let me see where this comes from. Yeah, there we go. There's that link that Jack put into chat via me, I guess.
Yeah, if you're wondering where I'm getting those numbers, it's off of this tweet from Raphael. It's a great tweet. The best tweet.
So that link is in chat, and you can check out Raphael's Twitter account.
Whole lot of venting coming from the tank farm near Hopper.
Yep.
Yeah.
I love that Hopper just has like a set of evil eyes now.
I'm going to keep going through Super Chat. John says, Mary is so dreamy. Yes, I just paid to say that. There you go, Mary.
Nice.
Thank you for the Super Chat. Simon with the new membership. Thank you so much for your support. And we got a question here from Run the Numbers, who says, if you check SpaceX's job page, there is a temporary opening for an offshore crane operator. Could they already have bought a rig or platform? We know SpaceX is eventually wants to investigate or move into using sort of offshore platforms to do Starship Super Heavy launches, things like that. But those job openings are not really new. Those have been around for a while, so I'm not sure I would like tie that to anything. They've been doing that for a while. They're probably doing like preliminary work and things like that. But thank you for the super chat and the question. Andy says, do you guys think the better availability of hydrogen and the regulatory limits on carbon, a future Starship could make the switch to hydrolox? So currently Starship is fueled by liquid methane and liquid oxygen, and switching to hydrolox would be liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen, which is of course also a very viable rocket fuel used by many rockets today. The main driving factor behind using methane is actually the ability to create liquid methane on the surface of Mars. The big part of the Starship architecture is being able to refuel the rocket once it lands on Mars so it can come back. So I'm not sure a switch to hydrolox is something that SpaceX would consider. It's also not a great it's a great efficiency rocket fuel, but it's not very dense, which means you need a very big rocket to hold enough fuel to do certain performance characteristics. Whereas methane, you can densify, and just kind of like kerosene, it's a lot more dense, so you can make higher performing rockets with it, even if the efficiency of the fuel itself is not as great. So I would say that I think they're firmly going to stick with methane rockets for the near future. Thank you for the super chat and the support, Alan, with a new membership. We appreciate that. Hope you enjoy. Blackboard Science says, thanks to all of the NASA Spaceflight crew for the wonderful live streams. Could you say hi to Drew and Jacob? Drew, Jacob, how you doing? Thanks
What's
for
up,
watching.
Drew and Jacob? Yeah, how's it going, y'all? Hope you're enjoying the, I guess, shenanigans we get into on our stream here.
Yeah. We can only make rocket detanking so exciting, I suppose.
We do our best. We do our best.
We do our best. Bart with the new membership as well. Thank you so much. Greatly appreciate it. And a super chat here from Chris. There's a lot of Chris's around NASA Spaceflight, but this is a new one, I believe. Thanks for the streams and entertainment. You all have a great report. Is that a word I don't know? I don't know. Love the knowledge you bring the most. I hear that the thrust is 3, so the time must be near. Thank you so much for the super chat. I saw someone earlier say that the fuel tanks hold 3. So
they hold
maybe
3, nice.
Yeah. Question here from Nick, are the flaps moving or is it just the lighting? The flaps are currently tied in place, so the flaps are not moving right now. The lighting with all the venting and things might be causing some illusion or something, but the flaps, we know they've been moving them recently, been doing some testing on them, but right now they're actually tied in place, we've seen, so they're not moving them right now. Someone in chat says, one day I will save up enough money to drive to Boca Chica and play siren noises. I've always wanted to be in control of the confuse media button.
Nice.
Well, it would certainly confuse us, that's for sure.
I really do wonder, like, obviously it's a joke that we're making, but to what extent would somebody in the control room have the ability to push a button to make us react? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I really do wonder. And surely it's not much, and nobody would ever actually do that because they wouldn't want to lose their job, and it's a way more complicated than just getting a reaction from us chuckleheads. But every now and then, we'll be saying something and something will happen, and it's just like, okay, stop.
We do know that there are SpaceXers that tune into our stream sometimes, so we know
true.
that's a thing. Yeah. Whether there's a confused media button, not sure.
Well, the number of times we've been confused seems to provide pretty ample evidence that it must exist.
Dennis with the super chat, thank you so much for your support. We really do appreciate it. We have some more venting from the vehicle as detanking likely continues. If you're just joining us, a little bit of a status update. We've seen what we believe to be some sort of wet dress rehearsal. The low-cut oxygen got thoroughly frosty, and now you can kind of see that frost starting to go away. I believe they're detanking now. Weren't really expecting a static fire tonight. More just a final wet dress rehearsal, and we're getting close to the test flight, which would take place no earlier than Friday. So this is some final pre-flight testing taking place. And yes, Chad, I did just say Frosty. I was hoping no one was going to notice, but you definitely did. So I meant Frosty.
Did you say Throsty? That's like
Frosty.
Like frost that provides thrust?
Is the Throsty 3? Is that
the Throsty is 3? That sounds like a cold beverage you could get, like an ice cream mixed drink at the bar on top of the high bay.
There you
Throsty's
go.
Only 2. The Throsty is only 2.
The Throsty's 2.
Okay. I am looking forward to seeing what creative drink names they come up with for the bar on top of the high bay. There's got to be some good spaceflight puns to be made there, right?
Nice.
Yeah, I hope that actually happens. I mean, I fully expect it to. It's just insane to even say out loud. But hey, that's the same company that sent a Tesla into, Martian adjacent or Mars orbit crossing heliocentric orbit, whatever it is.
It's a Mars-inspired orbit.
They're crazy.
We're still seeing Zeus there in the bottom right? I think I still see him.
The little light?
Yeah, the very bottom right. That's Zeus, right? The robot dog.
I'm squinting down to 2010 to see. It looks like it may very well be.
I know we saw it earlier. I haven't been paying attention, so I don't know if that's what we saw earlier or if that was some random light. I'm pretty sure Zeus is still out checking things out. Chat started talking about him again.
I can tell you, I just need 45x instead of 25.
I'm gonna jump off comms for a minute. I will be back.
Good deal.
I'm gonna keep trying to find. I've actually cleared out our queue finally.
Nice.
I'm trying to find some more questions. Let's see. Question, when are we going to do the 15-kilometer test? Well, we are not really in charge of said 15-kilometer test. We just point cameras at them, but SpaceX will attempt it no earlier than Friday. Let's see. I keep seeing the shadows from the detanking vent like moving on the ship and out of the corner of my eye because I'm like looking at the chat queue and I see that at my mind and I think something like happened. I keep freaking out.
Hey, Nijo Master, thanks for the 17-month resub there, by the way. I haven't done these. Ragfire, all the support over on the Twitch side. Appreciate your Ragfire. Action, how's it going, Action? So excited for Friday. Cannot wait. I agree. I cannot wait to see what we get to see on Friday, Action. Thank you for the 71 months. There's another big vent. It catches my eye because the shadow travels up the side, yeah. And then when it stops, you can see the light go back up as the venting sort of clears out. Let me see. I know there were some earlier. Godzilla Train, thank you for the 16 months. Hey, yourself. A bunch of gifted subs from Ragfire. Just clearing my own queue here. Savage Jacob, appreciate you. 3 months. Mac in there for 35 months. And Hydra for 60 months. 60 months. So like 5 years. 60 months. Mutter snuck through there for 68 months as well. And that was all the way back to the beginning of my queue. So thank y'all so much over there as well. Everybody on the Twitch side. I know I haven't been here the entire time on the comms, but I appreciate y'all hanging out. As a lot of people on YouTube may or may not know, we sometimes, or for most of the events that I'm part of, I restream it over on the Twitch side because that's where I started all this. I started learning how to do these types of streams from Twitch, so almost 6 years ago. So that's my original thing, and it sort of came through years and years of playing a lot of Kerbal Space Program. That's why my name's K Space Academy, right? And that is how I ended up here helping support these live streams. Long time. Do we know what time the window closes tonight? Did we get an update on that?
That's a great question. If Michael was here, I'd ask him, but he's not here. Jack, do you know when the closures end tonight? No, Mary says 9 p.m. Never mind, Mary's the expert here.
9 p.m.
9 o'clock local.
Yeah, I scrolled.
Which was 42
back up,
minutes ago.
Which was 42. You're right, it was 42 minutes ago.
I mean, those road closures aren't really like hard limits, as evident by what just happened. SpaceX can sometimes extend those a little bit if they work with the local authorities, but that's also another sign that they are definitely detanking and wrapping things up as quickly as they can.
Yeah. And you can really see that ice, the frost starting to melt off the side of the LOX tank. That thing it literally looked like a white vest. It was a very Gene Kranz sort of vibe it had going on. But it is melting now, and we've seen all these things, the sort of signs of venting and detanking. So since the window closed at 9 and we've seen all these signs of detanking, I'm not thinking that it's likely that we will hear a siren or get a static fire. It does look like the operations are spooling down here this evening.
And that doesn't mean they aborted anything. It could have meant they literally were just looking for a wet dress rehearsal as sort of fueling test, which I think is what our best guess was. So that's all that was going on.
Yeah.
And wrapping things up.
Absolutely. Stand by. I got to ban a flat earther. There we go. Done.
Yeah,
Nice.
that's what I'm doing here. I'm starting to break down my stuff. In fact, my batteries are expended, and I'm going to be ordering some equipment off of Amazon when I get back to where we're at. So, breaking down here on my end, but yeah, it was super cool. We got to see Starship come alive again tonight and get ready once again, further ready for a 15-kilometer flight.
Yep.
Chat says that expendable batteries are not very normal.
Aren't all batteries expendable?
Expendable? I mean,
I don't know about that.
Not okay. Well, not all batteries are rechargeable.
Right.
We're into a square rectangle situation here again.
It's like the people who say Pluto's not a planet.
Technically, it's a dwarf planet, which is a subclass of planet, so.
It's a type of planet. You trying to tell me that red cars are no longer cars? That's my smart aleck remark for the day.
Super chat here. If you have a 3D printer, you can sous vide on it. There you go.
What?
Is that how that works?
I don't know how that works. I'm having a look at the bits here.
And another super chat that says, "Hey Jack, when is the launch?" From Eric.
Oh, of course, that's what it says.
That's what it says.
Jack, any ideas when the launch is?
I think Jack.
Sorry, yeah, I'm like muting myself as I keep breaking down. I don't want to add a bunch of noise, but that is a joke from Eric, who was actually like, I don't know, maybe 100 feet away from me for most of the night tonight. Happened to, one of our members was out here. What up, Eric? Super cool. And can I just say, like, I appreciate everybody who supports what we do and is a member. Thank you all so much. But what Eric did that I thought was in particular extra cool is Eric kind of hung out by himself. He came over. He didn't like crowd around me. I mean, a couple of different people tonight. It seemed like they were locals or whatever, but like they're interested, and that's really cool that people are interested in spaceflight and in Starship. But I'm like, I almost want to get a set of cones and like put them around me. Like, please don't come near me. I'm from California, and I don't want to get anybody sick, and I don't want to get anything from you and take it back to California. And so I appreciate Eric keeping his distance tonight. We were sitting on Discord joking with each other because he saw all the people coming up to me and asking, "Hey, when's the launch?" So that's what that joke is he witnessed it. He witnessed the 10 to 20 people who came up to me tonight like, "Hey, is it going to launch?" And it's like, "No, it's not. I'm sorry. I wish it was."
Nice.
Anyways.
And we've got a super chat here from Andre again that says, "Crispy gave me the PayPal address, just waiting for the launch." Andre, a regular, thanks for another super chat.
And Maria is telling us here that it is starting to sprinkle a little bit. You can see we're starting to get some weirdness with the bit rate out there. So I think it may be time for us to start spooling it down here, y'all.
I think now that we have cleared our queues and stuff, that would be a good time. We believe the testing is starting to wrap up. So, I think that'd be okay, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Good deal.
So, on that end then, thank you everyone for tuning in tonight. We believe we probably saw a apparently successful wet dress rehearsal. They certainly filled the LOX tank almost to completion, which is of course something they'll have to do for the 15-kilometer flight happening no earlier than Friday. Stay tuned to NASASpaceflight for coverage of that. If you want to make sure you see it live, feel free to subscribe and turn on notifications. We will be live for that flight test. Of course, we'll have daily videos from Mary going up between now and then as well. We just had one go up during the stream, so feel free to check on that. And of course, we'll be live for any other testing that happens between now and then, as well as we got a SpaceX launch from Cape Canaveral on Friday. We'll be live for that as well. So thank you everyone for tuning in. Thanks for all the super chats and the memberships and things like that. We really do appreciate it. We have reinvested so much of that into new equipment, some of which may or may not enhance our coverage of the 15-kilometer flight. So stay tuned. And thank you so much for watching. And thanks for, I know Michael stepped away, but big thank you to Mary, as always, of course. And Jack and Das for joining me in the studio. Jack out there in Boca Chica, thanks for hanging out tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey,
Yeah.
real quick, Jack, go ahead, Jack.
I just wanted to say, thank you once again to everybody that supports what we do. It enables us to do what we do and bring this stuff to everybody around the world. And it on that note, tonight somebody came up to me, Twitter profile Mundo Man, I think is what it was. But I forget your name. I'm sorry, dude. But he came up and was just very, very sincere and was just like, "You guys, you really helped me out." So I know that it can be tough out there at times, and I really, 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 really am honored that we get to do what we do and bring a little bit of joy and excitement into people's lives. So thank you so much to all of our members, and thank you so much to everybody that super chatted tonight. Thank you everyone that hits the like button, hits subscribe, tells your friends about us. Hey, there's this really good feed from Boca with these chuckleheads who talk about microwave bacon, smiling dolphins. No, seriously though, like I to a certain extent on these streams, I play around and I play a role of like, hey, I'm the goofy guy. I talk about bacon, but it's for a reason. And it's because we all need a little bit of levity in life sometimes, and it's good to laugh. It's a cliche, but laughter is the best medicine. So, shout out Mundo, man. Thank you so much for your kind words today. You really brought a tear to my eye. Thank you, dude. I really appreciate it. And yeah, thank you to everybody for supporting. Strap in. 15-kilometer flight's coming. It's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Real quick, I was going to hop over. I missed a couple people at the end of the queue there. Play the Planet, thank you so much for the support. 3 months over on Twitch saying great coverage as always. We appreciate you, Play the Planet. Omega there as well saying hopefully a lot more to come. Thank you very much for doing what you do. 15 months. Omega, thank you for making it so that I and we can keep doing this sort of stuff. It is a blast. It is an absolute blast, the stuff that we get to do and share with y'all. So we do appreciate you. And then Loser, this person's username, it's actually Loser. Thank you so much for the 67 months there as well. So thank y'all. I didn't want the stream to end and me miss those couple people that hopped in. Also, hi mom, get some sleep. Mom's watching as well right now. So also interested in rockets and SpaceX. She's actually just a couple hours north of Boca Chica up there. She's up in Corpus Christi. So I grew up 3 hours north of Boca Chica. So she's still back down there, but hope you're doing well, Mom. And then some super chats that came in last second. Luke Adventures, can't wait for the launch. See you then. We will definitely see you then, Luke Adventures. Thank you so much for that 5 Australian. And then this person's saying Jack talks too much. I'm not sure what the rules are, but Jack, you talk too much, apparently. It is all good. Jack may be packing some stuff up there, but y'all, Thomas, thank you.
To talk more? You want me to talk more at the I talk too much comment? Or am I supposed to be quiet? There's no winning here. It's a double-edged sword.
Yes. Thomas, I was gonna say real quick, thank you for taking the reins tonight while we were all working on other projects and stuff.
Of course.
Thomas holding down the commentary and hosting and stuff like that. So we appreciate you there, y'all. That's Thomas Berghart was the, I guess, lead commentator. I don't even know if that really makes any sense, but appreciate you taking the reins tonight, Thomas. Thank you for freeing me up there.
Happy to.
All right. Well, that the end?
I think that's all, folks.
Okay. Do we have anything else to do, or we just like roll the credits?
I think we say see you next time.
Oh, all right, cool. All right. Y'all, if we get word of any sort of thing that's happening tomorrow, you know to keep looking out for us here. If you didn't hit the daily video got uploaded while we were live this evening. So if you're still looking for Starship content, you can go and watch the daily video, all of the up close and personal video that Mary records over the course of the day, of course, starting with the sunrises and stuff like that. So that video is up. You may not have seen it while we were live here. So make sure, let's get a link to that in chat if somebody can link that up in chat for me. And if we get wind of anything happening tomorrow, you can certainly know that we will get a stream to you if it's something that we think is something that needs to be streamed and shared. And you know, to get back to that, you can follow the channel here, leave a like on the video, maybe turn on notifications, the bell, and all that sort of stuff, whatever way that it is. Maybe follow on Twitter at NASASpaceflight is the primary Twitter account there. Anytime we're live, it gets retweeted from that main account there. But if you're interested in what's going on, definitely follow up with us. And we hope to see everybody Friday when we begin the countdown for the 15-kilometer hop on Starship SN8. less than 2 days now. So for now, this is the NASA Spaceflight crew signing off of our live commentary, and we will see you nerds later.
Chamber pressure looks good. Following up. Roger, roll, Atlantic. Water tower, fly! Flight downside, speed off. Speed off.
Yikes. You bet. Concur. We don't need any more of these.